It's street talk.
It is street talk. It's time.
But before we launch into diatribe, I've got the clickbait for the week.
Gemma's doing it for a change. We're switching it up.
Yeah, Michael's been very, 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 very busy.
I've been jolly busy, and Jonathan sent us some clickbaits today. So
Thank
I
you,
forwarded
Jonathan.
the email to Gemma and says, "Can you do it today?"
Just you do it.
So I'm going to see whether I'm as good or not as you at guessing
Okay.
the topic. I've not even read the headlines here. I blind forwarded it on to you. So what we got? What's been going on in the world of Corrie tabloids this week, Gemma? What have I missed?
Let me tell you. Manchester Evening News. Coronation Street, Sydney Martin declares love for co-star as she says she's so lucky.
Oh, interesting. I'm going to guess it's not a romantic love we're talking here. I'm going to say she's probably talking about the legend that is Vicky Myers.
Why would she be talking about Vicky Myers?
She's her mum, isn't she? She's her telly mum.
Yeah. Do you
Is there a reason?
Else? She's been in it for 4 years.
Oh yes, it is the anniversary. It's the
Swainiversary
Swainiversary this week, isn't it? It's proper celebrations for the 5th. That's Swainiversary. So see you this time next year.
It's a shame it doesn't coincide with VE Day.
Yes.
Well,
you couldn't. There's too much to celebrate all in one day. You'd pass out.
You would. Yeah. I mean, the bunting goes up and stays up, doesn't it?
Right. It does. Right. Next.
Right. Coronation Street. This is from the Plymouth Herald, which is an old favourite of ours. Coronation Street, George's long-lost child revealed, in inverted commas, as Cobble's resident in shock twist.
Okay. So George has got a secret love child on the street.
Yeah.
It seems to be one of those every week, doesn't there?
Every week, some bored person on Facebook or Twitter goes, do you know what would be funny?
If this person was related to that person.
Yeah.
I'm wondering whether it's just Todd. Is the Plymouth Herald speculating that Todd is in fact the fruit of George's loins?
Do we know much? We don't know much about Todd's dad, do we?
No, I don't think we really do.
We don't. We know who Jason's dad is because he died.
Yeah.
And he was in it. He was a character. But yeah, it's right.
Tony Stewart.
It's actually technically one of the only ones that would make sense to have it be Todd. To have Todd's mystery dad. No, it's not.
Okay, who is it? Who we got?
Because it would make sense, wouldn't it?
That would make so much sense.
Mick,
George's love child. What? Any details about this, or does somebody just
think it? They look the same.
They look the same, apparently. Well, I don't know. I need to see Mick holding a pair of embalming tongs before I could be absolutely sure about that.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Oh, okay. Coronation Street fans convinced soap star has quit, in inverted commas, after spotting cryptic clue.
Oh, so somebody has quit in inverted commas.
Yeah, and I tell you what, if this is true, someone else has quit as well.
I've got no idea. Is this anything to do with? Is there a clue on the show, or is it a clue on social media? Yeah. I don't know. Is it just some very, very slow fans that have just realised that Charlotte Jordan has sadly left the programme, or maybe Kate Kavanagh?
You don't even know who it is talking about, then, do you? No.
No, I don't know. I've got no clue.
Do you want to guess?
Somebody's quit. Well, hopefully they weren't guessing Jake Windass because they got real egg on their face this evening.
What an idiot! Why do people sometimes think that people have quit? What's a bit of a
headshots on social media?
Yeah.
Julia Goulding.
Yes,
I did see Julia Goulding's headshots on social media. She's not quit.
And also, I've seen that Shanique Sterling-Brown has just uploaded a very nice picture of herself.
Has she indeed? I think somebody else did a headshot this week. I can't remember who.
Maybe
headshot season. Is it like school
ITV,
photographs?
I was just about to say that.
Oh, sorry, I'm getting that.
Just carry on. Right, Coronation Street's Billy's.
I think we've got our school photographs next week. No, it's 2 weeks' time. It's fine. I've got time
Aren't you on
to
half
preen
term
myself.
then?
No, I'm half term 2 weeks. It's fine.
I'm not bothered. It doesn't make a difference to me because you work the same either way. Coronation Street's Billy's new couple's romance revealed, in inverted commas, nearly a year after Paul's death. And this is from Leicester Mercury, and the last one I didn't say was from the Daily Record.
Okay, so Billy's got a new romance on the street, has he?
Yeah.
Theo.
Yes.
Because he's gay. Of course, what other reason do we need? Oh, that was funny.
You don't even need them. You don't even need that reason.
No.
Anyone can be a target for the bored Twitterati.
I don't think we've seen the end of Theo and Todd. So don't worry, shippers. of the silver-tongued fox.
Tell you what, that's one ship I'd like Titanic.
Well, that was fun. Thank you very much, Gemma.
Did I enjoy doing that?
Did you enjoy it?
No, did you?
I enjoyed you doing it. Yeah, it was fun.
Maybe we should do it that way.
Up a little bit. Yeah, but anyway, right.
Oh,
Today's Conversation Street. We're starting. It's mostly number 11 stuff, isn't it? I put the Todd story along with the Julie story as well because they do intermingle somewhat. I called the Julie story Julie Completed. Do you get that?
Like Julie, like I've duly completed that.
Yeah, exactly. I have duly completed something. DULY. Julie completed. She's completed her time on the street. No, maybe. I wasn't feeling too inspired, I'm going to say. I quite like this one, though. The story about Laila going off to America with James. Lay off.
Yeah,
that's good, isn't it? Lay off. That's
Lay
a
off.
thing. Mick in the Nick. He's got arrested this week, didn't he? That's all right. Mick in the Nick, and there's also a bit of Mickey in the Bricky into Friday's episode. End of Days was, of course, the lovely storyline title for the Daisy story, which carried on this week. Jenny's still reeling from that, and we had a little bit more of the dementia. But yeah, we're going to be covering mostly the Julie story in this episode because that's what Coronation Street decided to do itself. Before we get started on this, though, then Gemma, what's your kind of... Just you want to lay out your table here, so just so the listeners know what they're letting themselves in for. What's your thoughts on how they handled Julie's death?
What the hell are they doing with this storyline?
Yes, that's what I'm thinking too.
I just don't understand what's going on with it at all. Like, okay, we had a PSA, like a very clumsy PSA on Wednesday. Spoiler alert, Julie's dead. And they kind of think that she might have decided, ended it herself. And also... they specifically named the drug that was used, which I'm not going to do.
Why not?
Well, we've spoken about this loads of times on the podcast. You don't talk about methods.
How you did it. Oh, of course. Okay. So
and they definitely don't specifically name a drug you can get over the counter.
Well, maybe that particular drug that you get over the counter that they named in today's episode wasn't actually the one that killed her, because they've still not done the autopsy yet.
You don't get away with that because you don't. That's not a pass.
Despite the fact that the police are, almost ready to hang, draw, and quarter Eileen for her involvement in Julie's murder. They haven't even done the autopsy. She might have just died.
I don't even know how to begin. I haven't even really said my main problem, because that wasn't even anything that really bothered me that much. It was just, it's more of a pedantic kind of, let's not encourage people by telling them how to do it. Like, the Samaritans clearly tell you this is a very bad thing to do, and I followed the guidelines when I was working as in journalism. I followed those guidelines because I took it seriously.
So what's your main beef with this?
There's not one main beef. It's all terrible. Like, why didn't she leave a note? Why did she drop her in it? The PSA on Wednesday, which I was getting around to, when the clumsiest conversation I've ever heard, and there's been some real clunkers on Coronation Street of late, I'm going to say. The stuff with Dee-Dee explaining to Audrey and Maria, who are trying to sympathise with her, that actually... 1 in 4, etc., trotting out all the statistics, which really was a bit of a mark on a very important topic. Now, this one, we had, who was it? Mary?
I can't remember.
And Billy talking about assisted suicide and legislation. And she goes, I'm worried that it might be abused. And Billy, who literally spent months agonising over being asked to help Paul to end his life on the show and was completely opposed to it and only did it because he was, he threw his better thoughts aside to do it for the man he loved, goes, actually, it's only for people that are terminally ill, so it's fine. Okay, so Coronation Street has told me what to think about the serious, important topic of assisted suicide, which is actually going through Parliament. And we're supposed to just, dust our hands off and go, okay, if Coronation Street has said...
I think Billy's had a long, hard chat with God.
Billy wouldn't have said... that was so clumsy and awful. I found it really offensive to be told what to think about it, because it's so much more complicated than that, and it is ripe for abuse. And... They've done it so delicately. They've covered this topic twice, in the last year, and then they did it with Hayley really well, and now they kind of ruined it with that stupid conversation that didn't need to happen. And then they're doing this. They've turned this into some kind of comedy embalming caper with, you might as well have had George come out with a tube with like red liquid pouring out the top of it, going, uh-oh, and then he squeezes it and a bit squirts out with a funny little fart sorts out.
I was expecting when Julie's body was wheeled out on a stretcher or something for her accidentally to fall off, you know.
Roll away.
Yeah,
it was.
They didn't know. They just didn't get it right. The pitch of it, did they?
Is it a sad story or is it a funny story? Is it an issue story or is it just a stupid caper? I don't think they know.
Well, obviously, I'm absolutely devastated that Julie's been killed off anyway, and I was so happy when I heard that Katie Kavanagh was coming back to the show. And you remember how mad I was that day that they revealed that Julie had cancer,
furious.
because she came back in an episode and Julie's got a dark secret. I was like, ooh, what could that be? How exciting. They said, oh yeah, I'm dying actually of cancer. Absolutely fuming. But then I've despite all that, still enjoyed the story up until this point. The romance with her and Brian was absolutely blooming lovely.
We needed it.
But they've just completely flubbed it. Oh, I got a question for you.
You could have done the same nice story and had them go off together and be happy.
They totally could. A question for you. Did you know when we recorded last week's podcast that Julie was actually going to die on Monday? Because you made some pretty... you said, oh yeah, she's going to go to the lake and die.
I did not know that was going to happen, but I don't see how you couldn't have guessed. I don't think I have ever found out a spoiler and then pretended I predicted it on this show. Although it would be very, very tempting and funny to do and make me look like an absolute genius. I would never do that to everybody because first of all, that's just an arsey thing to do. And secondly, well, that's it really. It's just a bit of a pricky thing to do, isn't it?
It is a little bit. Okay, good. So,
and there are things that I know that are going to happen that have not come out that we can't talk about or speculate about because we know that they're going to happen.
We do know some spoilers.
We know some big things that are going to happen. So that's going to be difficult to talk around.
Do our best.
In the storyline, whether it's this one or another one, I don't know. But yeah, so we try not to predict accidentally.
Oh, fine, okay.
No, I didn't know.
Okay, fine, that's good. Yeah, it was just, it's really, really been badly handled. I feel sad that what was turning into I don't want her to die. They didn't need to do this, but at least I'm enjoying it. To just have it come out of nowhere and then Eileen's immediately arrested. And I get that, you want to do things for the drama. It is a soap after all, but...
The thing about
it doesn't sit right with me.
Is that Julie was kind of like setting herself up to end it, wasn't she? Because she was doing the whole, oh, goodbye everybody, I'll leave you a video, I'll pick my time and my place. But she failed to actually do the most important thing, which is to make sure that she doesn't stitch everybody up. Like it just felt like she didn't I don't understand why she didn't leave anything for Brian. I think that was super cruel.
Yeah, well, so he got a poetry book.
No, she didn't leave a video. She didn't tell him she was going to end it. She didn't let him come. I thought that was really... considering that she spent like the last 2 weeks trying to break George and Eileen up because she doesn't think they love each other enough.
Yeah.
She does that. I would be really betrayed if I was Brian. I think that was really thoughtless of her. I also don't understand. I don't think that you can time what she did as quick, as easily as like, go and get a cup of tea.
Yeah, how long does it take? Did she wait until she saw the queue was really, really long and she's like, right, now's my chance?
Also, that Tatton Park, that's where it happened, Tatton Park. That's a National Trust property. You got to pay to get in there. So they could have saved on tickets.
Well, she was probably milked her illness to get in, didn't she? She was practising when she had a free drink last week.
Also, do you know how much it cost to buy a cup of tea there? She didn't have to buy 2 cups, did she? You've wasted money.
They didn't actually... Although they filmed it at Tatton Park, it was named as, I think, Ellington Park or Hillington Park or something in the show. But we did have quite a fun time on Monday evening trying to locate the filming shoots of this, didn't we? Well, yeah, I did.
It was the nerdiest thing.
You know what I'm like now. I've now, when they do a location shoot on Coronation Street on those rare occasions, I'm like, I'm going to find out where this is. And I was very pleased myself for finding the exact location where Rob and Carla and Swain had their showdown a couple of months ago, and this is like, right, so we got a river going through, you can see a couple of bridges and trees, and I found it. It took me about half an hour, but I flipping well found it, because I did like Google searching old wooden bridges, Manchester, found a picture of one of the bridges there, it said it was in Tatton Park. I was like, right, okay, so that was going on Tatton Park, and the Google Street View on Tatton Park doesn't go around the whole thing, but blow me if I haven't found it. So I feel very pleased with myself, and it means that we maybe get to go to Tatton Park again to do a little photo shoot there next time we're up in Manchester, maybe, which is lovely. Because Corrie has been to Tatton Park once or twice in the past, haven't they?
Yeah, well done for finding it.
Sorry, was I just blowing my own trumpet a little bit too long?
I've also forgotten that I was pretty instrumental.
Yes, you helped as well. Do you want to...
I didn't help. I found exactly where it was from.
Yeah. Oh, yes, you did. Gemma found a video, actually. I did forget that. Gemma was the key. Sorry, Gemma.
Well, no, I'm glad you're proud of yourself.
I'm proud of both of us, of course, yes.
It's really bizarre.
I
found the video of like the exact spot where it happened.
Yeah, somebody was doing a video. Yeah, that's how we found out.
And then I went on to YouTube. It's funny, it's just
I
quite
totally
funny listening
forgot
to
that
you
bit.
ranting about how fantastic you are at finding things. I knew that you wouldn't mind me just shoehorning in a bit of praise for myself.
Go ahead.
That this was also the location of the first ever full location shoot episode for Coronation Street. I think it was 1967, wasn't it? And it was when Elsie was getting married to Mr. Tanner, the American, Steve Tanner, and this was a hen party, and it was also the lads were going on a barge trip, and they spent the day at Tatton Park. And they went. Because I knew that they went to the Japanese gardens.
Yeah, there's a scene of Elsie going across a bridge to the Japanese gardens.
So I watched that
wasn't
episode.
The same bridge.
I was like, "Where's this bloody bridge? How exciting would it be if Julie died in sight of Elsie's bridge?"
That would have been awesome, especially because they're related, aren't they? Elsie Tanner and Eileen and Julie. So they've both been in the vicinity, but they were it was very close, but it wasn't the same spot where
I don't know
Phoenix
how close
stood.
They actually were. And I was going on the National Trust app, as we said before. Don't get jealous, we are members. Anyone can access this app though. And I was downloading like the maps and things to like find the bloody location of this sodding bridge.
Tell you what, I think we're going to get some beef from the English Heritage members here. We're going to set up some kind of rivalry with them.
Well, my dad refuses to join National Trust, and I had to pretend for a while that we didn't have membership.
You had to pretend to your dad that we weren't in the National Trust.
Well, I didn't advertise it because he's ideologically opposed to them because they allow fox hunting.
Really?
On their lands, and I'm like, I don't agree with fox hunting, but I can't live my life like that.
You can't turn your nose. You can't turn down the offer of a free trip around a castle, can you?
I eat Kit Kats. I can't pretend to be moral.
What's wrong with a Kit Kat?
Nestle, evil.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Anyway, so shall we? We're quite a way into street talk at this point. People know what we're going to say, but should we give a little bit of a rundown of what was going on?
I'm going to interject. You can do this, but I'm going to interject because
interject away.
They really messed this up. I'm sorry. They messed this up. And the other thing I'm saying, Monday was okay. It was nice.
Yeah, Mondays wasn't too bad.
But it wasn't like a knock it out of the park justification for all of the misery that they put us through.
I went into Monday's episode and I did know that she was going to die in that one. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know whether it was going to happen, at the lake, or whether she was going to come back home after a lovely day and then be dead at the end of it, a bit like Vera when she went to Blackpool. And so when Eileen found her, I was just surprisingly unmoved by it.
I'm sorry to say.
I don't really know why.
I'm sorry to say I felt the same.
Katie and Sue are fab actresses, so it wasn't to do with that.
I don't know whether it was... acting at being dead, excellent.
A brilliant line.
She looked dead.
But I was kind of... It's maybe because it came out of nowhere. I wonder whether... Because there was clearly... looking back, there were clues, I guess you could say, that Julie was planning to end it there.
I mean, yeah.
But I definitely didn't know that there was going to be any of this suicide suspicion.
When she said, "Go and get me a cup of tea," I was like, she's going to die.
Yeah, I thought that, but I didn't realise, like I said, that she had arranged it.
No, I didn't know that.
For lack of a better term. So when Eileen found her, and then she sat down next to her and had a bit of a lip wobble and a cry, and she did a good job. But I was, maybe it was just because I was taken so off guard in a way by it.
No, I just
was unmoved.
I
love the character.
Love Julie, and I think, unfortunately, I when I found out she was gonna die, I kind of went, oh.
Did you emotionally disconnect?
But the thing is about it, I really found Paul's death really sad and kind of traumatic, to use a bit of a hyperbole. Mm-hmm. But I think it's just because there's so many people have died or left in Coronation Street. It's like, oh yeah, get on the bus then.
Yeah, tell you what they should have done, Gemma. Maybe, you like Paul's death. Did Julie's death need a bit of a musical montage leading up to it?
No, they needed
Coronation Street has made us think that is the only way now that somebody can die if there's some tragic over-editing. But she just was
foaming at the mouth and people... Oh, the paramedics did come and they were like, nah.
DNR. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, we will get on to
I don't think this is an uncommon reaction though. I don't think a lot... I have seen people saying it didn't feel to me like a big tragic.
No.
And I know she did all those. There was a bit of background music at the beginning when she's in Victoria Gardens and she's recording her videos. Even that, I think it's because she's being a bit of a lunatic with her insistence that she's the love queen and that Todd and Theo are made for each other and George and Eileen are not, and she and Brian are love's incredible dream, but she didn't leave a video for him and she didn't let him come with her. So she's a bit...
She's like the trolls off of Frozen, isn't she?
Don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about.
Well, she's leaving this message on Monday's episode, isn't she? Which is basically it's just about love, and some people know what it is, and some people don't, and it's just kind of a very heavy hint. Like Brian knows what love is. George does not love Eileen. Don't give up if you haven't found the right person yet. Then we see Todd. Love can be unexpected and overwhelming. Cut to Dee-Dee with the baby. And the love of things is a waste of time. That was actually quite a good scene, just as Jenny going and looking outside the pub, looking at the name and the for sale sign there.
I thought this was just a bit of a cynical kind of like...
Was it a BAFTA bait?
It didn't feel like they were... I think that's a bit mean to say that it's BAFTA bait, but it did feel a bit like... Put this in the show reel of the year. Like, no, it wasn't. It just felt it felt cynical, and I don't really know why. I think it's because it's been overdone.
I think it was actually quite good. In the British Soap Awards when they do here's what you've missed in the soaps, or here's what we love in the soaps this year, and then they have the funny bit, and they have the action bit, and they have the kind of the sad bit, and I can imagine this monologue with loads of different clips from other soaps on now.
Well, yeah, and
still a month away.
This is going to save somebody some time putting together the montage because it's a montage of it in itself.
It's done it for them, hasn't it? Yeah. Anyway, she says, "I've loved and I was loved. Job done," and has a big sad sigh. And then Eileen comes along with some humbugs, and then they go off on their way.
Do you know what I want?
What's that?
Those cubes, those cube sweets that are pineapple flavoured.
Yeah, pineapple.
You said
chunks.
humbugs.
Yeah, no, but Eileen gave her humbugs.
Yeah. I want the pineapple cubes.
Yeah, okay.
Why are you saying yeah?
I want some.
Where are they then?
I don't know. You can't have any pear drops. Tell you what.
Pear drops make me cough.
Do they?
They taste like
They make the top of my mouth.
Remover.
They make the top of my mouth.
I like
taste
them.
Funny. Tell you what, Jenny's going to know all about that soon, isn't she? And a new career at the cabin. She's going to be dishing up the aniseed balls.
Cubes. Yeah. Pips.
Yeah, all
Core
of it. She's got a lot
please,
to learn.
Jenny.
Yeah. Right, so you got George as well and Glenda wanting to do something special for Eileen tonight because he's realised that he's in a bit of a dodgy situation with her and he needs to make it up with her with a tea light. So that's kind of showing that he's not particularly willing to push the boat out too much.
Well, he's just dropped himself in it again, hasn't he, by being a stupid dick. He's supposed to give them a lift to the special park so they can spend time, and they've been talking about this and planning this for ages, and he forgot, and he was in the process of trying to be thoughtful.
I think that they've done George badly here because I kind of see him that he actually is quite
I think he's the more thoughtful one out of him and Eileen, actually.
Yeah, I mean, look at his dad, Archie Shuttleworth. He was the ultimate romancer, wasn't he? He was absolutely a Lothario of the highest calibre. And I would have thought that probably George would have taken on some of those qualities. And I think he's been a bit of a donut before, but I think that he's a better man in terms of love and romance than half of the guys on that street.
I think Coronation Street is really guilty at the moment of telling us what somebody's like when we actually have evidence to the contrary. Like they're going, oh yeah, George is a useless arse who is buffoonish and he's thoughtless. It's like everything I've seen of him up until the last month has been completely the opposite of that.
I know. Anyway, she gives him his chicken fajita recipe as well. Her chicken fajita recipe.
Fancy, apparently.
Yes.
No, what was it? No full.
I don't remember.
Full proof.
I don't know. The other one that listens to all the food stuff.
I'm sure it's just a packet.
Back at number 11, Julie is putting on her makeup. Todd comes in and says that Danielle's rung him. You know, Danielle, wife of Theo. Theo's gone missing, apparently. Oh, tragedy. He's got no idea where he is. And Julie's like, don't worry, just forget about him. Because the last time we saw Theo, he was telling Todd, he was kind of roughing him up a bit in Victoria Street, wasn't he? And saying, I don't want anything to do with you anymore.
Oh,
and
yeah.
She's like,
Julie,
don't worry, you'll find Mr. Right one day.
You're not right together.
Yeah.
So I did say the wrong thing. I thought she was trying to encourage them. No.
No.
She had encouraged them before.
I think, she had done, but I think she's kind of said...
She's not that stupid.
Oh, well, you're a catch, Todd. Anyway, she says, right, we're going to the lake today. But it seems like, as you said, George has forgotten that he's supposed to be chauffeuring them there. Eileen's not impressed. See Theo later, the Theo who is missing of all of one scene. He's walking down Victoria Street, somewhat on the tipsy side, gets himself into a scrap with Mick. I don't really remember what started that, but Mick doesn't really need an excuse to beat somebody up, so it probably doesn't matter, I'm going to say. More on that later. Tim brings a cab round to number 11. Brian brings her along some flowers for Julie, and this is Julie and Brian's last scene together. And
she knew that she was going to do this, and I find this very...
Yeah, she said she gives him a big hug, tells him that she loves him, but again, it doesn't feel like...
It's not that this is the wrong thing to do. That's not what I'm saying, because I know that this is... Depends on what kind of a person you are. But everything that Julie had done up till this point, and all the things she said about Brian... This doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it kind of makes me think they didn't have the budget to bring more than 2 actors to the location shoot.
Yeah, those Tatton Park tickets are a bit pricey, aren't they?
Or maybe they thought, we can't think of a way of writing this in where 2 people go off and leave her by herself. That wouldn't make sense, but...
I mean, the way that the story goes,
super clumsy.
That Eileen is now implicated in her death, like, it wouldn't have been as easy had Brian been there.
Why would Julie do that?
Why would she do what?
Why would she leave Brian and decide just to kill herself with her sister there?
I suppose, she's sparing him from finding her corpse.
Here's the other thing. Sparing him from finding her corpse. Or what about her bloody sister? She not thought at all how traumatic it's going to be for her sister to come back and find her dead body. And also, logistically speaking, what a pain in the arse to die in a park. Where how do you get the body out? How undignified and sad to watch your sister kind of like be trundled on a gurney through Tatton Park.
Over the bridge. Yeah. At least, she had done herself up very nicely. She knew that we'd seen her a bit dowdier, I suppose, recently, and with a bit less makeup on, but at least she went out as a picture. I
think the thing that we're kind of like missing a little bit here is that she never intended for anyone to discover that she had done this. She wanted everyone to think she died naturally, and this was just a big coincidence. And it is a soap, so it makes sense because that kind of coincidental dying in a tragic and poignant way right before the ad break happens all the time. But the not leaving a note or a video for Brian and not letting him be with her when she died still makes no sense to me given her character.
Yeah, and the fact that she recorded those videos beforehand, it does raise eyebrows, doesn't it? And it doesn't get Eileen out of it either, because she's supposed to be implicated in helping her to do it. Not that she did it, not she murdered her. Yeah. But
the fact that these videos prove that there might have been an intention to take her life.
And I don't know how these things work, but would she have got an autopsy and been checked anyway?
I don't think they really do that. I think that there's just not any reason to do an autopsy on somebody who has got a terminal illness.
Yeah.
I just don't think they do.
I wonder whether any of the winces that Julie's been doing over the past few weeks has just been putting it on to make it feel like she was closer to it. How long has she had this plan? That's what I wonder.
It's really weird. It does feel a bit like Corrie's really pushing hard for, like, we must have assisted dying.
I know.
But the thing about it is, I don't want to get into a debate about it, obviously, because it's not, although Corrie keeps pushing us to it. I kind of think, like, we've had stories about character. Oh, wow, I'm not going to go on about it. I just think that it feels like Corrie's really presenting us with a super simplistic and one-sided view of what terminal, you know, what this assisted dying is. And I've just heard so many horror stories, not horror stories, true life stories about real people and what terrible things have happened to them.
Oh yeah, I know. I wonder, so going back to when and how long she's known, because they were supposed to go on that trip a couple of weeks ago, weren't they? Has she been thinking about this all that time?
Would she have done it then?
So
well, it was a massive trip.
Yeah. Well, are these final few weeks like a little bit of extra bonus that she's given herself? And actually, they have been the best 2 weeks, because it's since then that she's been with Brian romantically.
Well, isn't it interesting also, because this is kind of a bit what Paul was saying about when he wanted to end it, like saying, today was a great day, I don't want to miss any more of those.
Yeah, when the quads turned up, think of all these wonderful things I would have missed had I gone through with my original plan. And Julie's maybe experienced that. Otherwise, maybe she, or did she, you know, I think it was Eileen that suggested that they go on this trip on Monday, wasn't it? And was that forcing Julie's hand,
well,
as it were?
She knows at any point she can change her mind, right? So when she gets into the car, she gives Brian a big kiss and a hug, and he gives her flowers and everything. And then Tim says, where do you want taking? And this is when she says, well, that's a $64,000 question. Because she is still kind of thinking, do I stay or do I go? Like, is this the right time?
Yeah. Meanwhile, back on Victoria Street, the fight between Mick and Theo is still going strong. Well, the beating, should I say. Ed, Ronnie, Billy turn up to break things up, and Ronnie gets his muscles
Ronnie.
out, doesn't he? I like Ronnie. He's squaring up to him.
Come on then, Mick, you little slimy git.
Are you bursting out your top? No, I am.
I spend all day in the gym. Yeah. I've got nothing else to do.
I've been on this show for 4 or 5 years. I've had nothing to do up until this year, so that's where
these have come from, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
If you stay on the show long enough, you'll get guns like these, because they won't use you.
So Billy, it's very handy that he happens to be there, because he's been done bugger all this year, hasn't he? And he just so happens to be there. You can say that
about almost everybody on the show. There's there's like 10 characters that have done everything.
We had Summer this week, didn't we, as well? She used like, oh look, there's Summer.
I know. I was like, I forgot. I was literally thinking about her like the day before she appeared. I was like, it's so stupid. How many all the people that haven't been in it this year? And then she was like, oh, you rang.
Anyway, Billy takes Theo by the hand and walks him off. I can't remember whether Billy knew who Theo was at that point. Probably. Anyway, location shoot, everybody. Tatton Park. Julie, Eileen, by the side of the lake. Lovely. Fake daffodils, because this was filmed in February.
When we were watching this, I was like aghast at this. And I thought that was going to be my main complaint about this week. Was the
daffodils were clearly fake.
There was, at one point, there was an enormous close-up of them right in the centre of the screen. And you can see the little bulbous part where they attached one bit to another.
Could you see the seams?
Yes. And I don't know if... I know the props department worked really hard, but you do know that a flower doesn't grow just from a single stem in the middle of a lawn, right? That's not how it works.
They did somewhat look staked
and I
into
wasn't
the ground,
the only person who was distracted by the awfulness of the placement of these really fake, awful... Why don't we invest in some really good looking... fake flowers, Corrie, because you're going to do this every bloody year.
Well, they did it last year. This time last year, there were different yellow flowers being put out on the location shoot. Fake yellow roses for poor little Rose, the dead baby. It's nice how they're able to go out on location for
every time they get some fake flowers in this show. It drives me bonkers.
Not as bad as CGI fireworks.
And do you know what the crazy thing about it is?
That's my bugbear.
The crazy thing about it is that they get fresh flowers when they do funerals and weddings, don't they? Because we know what florists they use. Because we went there and talked to them about it.
Yeah.
They use for flowers you don't ever see because they're behind the glass inside the funeral hearse. You never see them close up. Why are we spending money on bloody fresh Is it because somebody who works in the production team's got like a fetish for real funeral wreaths or something, and they take them home at the end of the thing and stick it on their kitchen
Gemma,
table?
we do have a gravestone of Stan Ogden in our garden, so
yeah, we'll give it to us then.
We've been so mean, and people.
I'm not being. I've been so nice about Corrie. I try my best to find the good bits, and this week I've just decided. This week, no. I'm giving myself the week off.
It's post Daisy Coronation Street, isn't it? I tell you. Look, so Julie
I don't have
says,
to be nice about everything all the time. I know that there are people out there that think we're too nice and we're toadies and sycophants because we don't rip into every single thing that ever happens. But we're not.
No.
We criticise things.
This week deserves some criticism, I'm afraid.
And the thing is also, it's also judged on how much she wanted it to go well. I really, really wanted this to go well because Julie's an important character and I like Eileen and blah, blah, blah. But it felt very flat.
It does, it comes off the back of last Friday's episode as well, which was superb. Gemma has rewatched Daisy's exit scene.
Like it.
Gemma likes it now. Yeah. There we go. I told you I got her in there. So anyway, look. Julie's talking about Brian and how he's her 3 sugars and plenty of milk, which is just how she likes her tea, by the way. Eileen, can you go and get me a cup of it, please? They talk about they reminisce about this and that. Julie talks about how things might have been different if she had ended up pregnant that one time, but in fact that was. Did she have an ectopic pregnancy? Is that right? Do you remember that? No. Something happened where Julie couldn't have a baby anymore, so she had that other tragedy in her life. And then she's like, Eileen, you're pretty great too. Go and get me a cup of tea, will you?
The other thing I didn't find convincing about this was that 2 middle-aged women who are older than I am would be rolling around on the floor in their coats. It's incredibly uncomfortable when you get to this age to be rolling around on the cold floor. I don't think that if I was terminally ill with cancer, I'd be rolling around.
Sue Cleaver's been in the jungle, Gemma. She can do anything. She's an action woman.
Eileen is not a floor dweller, is she?
No, not by choice anyway. She did slip on that.
What was wrong with a lovely bench? It just looked really unnatural. There was a point where Eileen was kind of like lying on her stomach with her. Somebody had their legs and then they were swinging their legs up and down, and she was kind of like looking at her, like with her hand on her chin and stuff. It's like that. Women of that age. It just looked really unnatural, and maybe it's a very broad stereotyping.
I think it was partly because it was jolly cold.
Lots of women who are more than happy to roll around on the floor at any age, fine. But do you guys not think that Eileen would not be one of them? Eileen looks like the kind of person who wouldn't even go to a park.
I know, but just maybe, her trip to Thailand to see Jason recently has helped her get in touch with nature or something. She's probably lolling about in the beach all the time there.
I know I'm just nitpicking now, but this is where I'm at with this.
Anyway, Eileen goes off to get the tea. Julie says, thanks, I couldn't have wished for a better sister. Final words. Eileen heads off. Back at number 11, meanwhile, you got George trying to contact Eileen, but it's going straight to answer phone. He texts Julie to get Eileen to ring him, but Julie's phone's been left on the side. People are always leaving their phones around in Weatherfield, aren't they? Come on, guys. Goes over to it and finds another video message from her, which is also very coincidental, isn't it? He picks up the phone because it was ringing. It just so happens to have been in the room. He just so happens to find it. And he just so happens to look at the place where her videos are stored. Yeah, I know.
I don't understand how he...
He's a massive snooper.
You can't just accidentally find a video on somebody's phone like that.
I wonder, does...
Nitpick.
When the corpses come into the undertakers, if they've still got that root around in their pockets, go, left the mobile phone in here, let's have a look at what's on the photo reel.
I thought I heard it ringing, sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, because it was unlocked as well, clearly no password on Julie's phone.
Well, this video that he finds is the one to Eileen saying, get rid of George.
How heartless it!
When he found this, I was expecting him to delete it.
Yes, I did think that as well. I did.
Well, I mean, it's kind of noble and nice of him that he didn't, but that would have been a good reason for them to have broken up, because I think that's where this is going.
Oh, it seems that way for sure. I mean, she was threw
if he,
glass at him at the end of today's episode or something, didn't she?
If he had deleted that, not realising that she was dead, and then Eileen would have found out that he deleted that final message of her dead sister to her, that would have been a bit of a justifiable reason to be a bit knocked.
True, but I'm also going to say George doesn't strike me as the sort of person who would go into the recently deleted folder and permanently delete, so it probably would have been recovered, it would have been all right. Okay. Eileen get back to the lakeside, she's jabbering away, finds Julie laying there, unresponsive, dead.
Good job it's not half term at Tatton Park, innit?
Yeah, it's very...
And the kids tripping over.
No, it was bank holiday though, wasn't it?
Well, where are all the kids?
That's a really good point. I mean,
she's obviously not worried about that.
What if Eileen had been delayed in the line and some poor innocent kid kicked the football over to her, gone and rescued it and found a beautiful corpse?
She definitely did look dead, didn't she? Well, she was just sprawled out. It's not like, oh, I'm sure she's just taking a nap.
Well, Eileen knows immediately. She kneels down next to her and looks like she is a goner. And then the paramedics come, not Asher, lazy, finds her with this DNR bangle. And they say, well, sorry, there's nothing we can do. They leave Eileen with her. And it was quite sweet. Eileen saying, you're daft so-and-so. I had so much more to say.
Yeah, Eileen gets to kind of be in a bonnet about... I know no matter what happens, you feel like you had more to say. But more than almost anybody, she had so much time to talk and share her feelings. I do think that it's unfair to characterise Julie's death as unfinished business. You know, I think she did a really good job of sorting a lot of stuff out. And I know you will always think.
Well, especially, Julie's not really been a part of Eileen's life for the past... 10 years, 8 years, I can't remember. They've missed out on all that time together. And obviously I'm trying to think of Julie's backstory, because they didn't know that they were sisters at first, did they? No. Because of some seedy business that their father was getting up to. So they actually didn't have a whole lot of time together as sisters.
Yeah, and then she's buggered off and come back.
Yeah.
Here's my question, right? Is it then the case that Julie... her only meaningful relationship she's ever had in her entire life are the people that live in Weatherfield, and all the people that she spent the past however many years she's been off screen, they're all just completely disposable, useless people.
Clearly,
all of
she
her
has
childhood
no more friends,
all of her family from when she was little, all of them can get in the bin.
Yeah. I sort of on the suicide note of this, thinking, and I'd need to rewatch bits, because she did have a conversation with Roy about Hayley, didn't she, at some point?
Yeah, she did.
And did that give her the idea, or did she have the idea before? I don't know. And Julie and Hayley were kind of close, and I don't know.
There's definitely something to go back to that conversation.
Yeah.
For.
I'm sure some people have done it. As I say, I've been quite busy this week. Anyway, Julie's dead. We got Theo, Billy, Roy in the cafe. Theo said, "Look, I just tried to make it work with Danielle,
Todd's there, but
I couldn't." Yeah, Todd's there as well, isn't he? You're right. He's saying, "Yeah, I couldn't make it work with what I am." And Todd's like,
"This was guff."
What? What we're supposed to believe this week is that Theo has 100% gay. He's already known that.
Yeah.
But he's been in denial about it, or forced denial about it, through his family, right?
Right. So there is a really great story waiting to be told about a character who has gone through conversion therapy, which is sinister and evil and awful, and should be banned. The idea of and it kind of reminded me, when he's describing what happened, it reminded me of what Leanne went through with the cult, just screaming at you to try to break you down and try to convince you that you're straight. I don't know how that works, but it obviously didn't.
I might be very head in the sand about this, but I didn't think that was so much of a thing in this country. When I think conversion therapy, I think America and sending kids off to camp.
It definitely happens.
Does it happen here? It also reminds me of that South Park episode where they send Butters to conversion therapy and it's like, "You're confused." He's like, "Yeah, I'm very confused."
Oh, I don't. Okay, all right. But this story is not that story. This character is not that character, because I'm sorry, but I don't like Theo. I feel bad for him that this happened to him, and that's where it ends for me. I don't feel like this backstory is a convincing reason to explain his infidelity.
But it does make me wonder, are they going to delve into it much more? Or are they saying, it was conversion therapy, that means I can do whatever I want. I can cheat on my wife and ditch my kids.
It's really difficult, because this is another one of those things. It just feels awful that this is how this story is gone, because I just think it's conversion therapy is to discuss that is so much more important, and talk about somebody who's in the closet and confused about their sexuality is a really interesting thing to explore, and the dynamic of the wife finding out and everything. It's just being handled in such a clumsy way and being put into such a boring, dull character that it just doesn't feel like that they've taken this story now. They can't do this again for a whole year probably. But like, do you know what I mean? They've taken an opportunity to talk about something really serious, and they've really flubbed it.
I don't know. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Why?
Maybe I shouldn't, and think maybe there is more to tell here.
I've said this so many times over the past few months. I'm sure there's more to this. I'm sure there's more to this. And there never is. It's just like, here you go. Yeah, did you think that Theo was wrong to cheat on his wife? Well, guess what? You're the evil one, because he was treated badly as a child. Okay.
It wasn't even his wife, though. Like you pointed out, I think when we were watching Wednesday's episode, that he doesn't seem to give two hoots about his kid. I know he went off with his daughter after Todd was having a go at her on Friday's episode, but I'm not buying really any. I'm not getting any kind of.
He's not upset about losing his family.
No,
he's not. He hasn't mentioned them at all. He's just crying because he feels like he's failed the test of like being a straight man. That's how it feels, and that is awful too. That he feels that way. And there's obviously a lot of guilt and, all the rest of it. But it's just not being explored in a way that makes me feel sympathetic to him at all. Because there's a bit we're going to get to in a minute where I think his children kind of reject him or, are mean or cruel to him. And he's like almost smiling afterwards, going, well, that solves that problem.
Yeah, you're right. I think that was Wednesday's episode.
Don't have to worry about them anymore because they hate me.
Yeah.
That's kind of good.
Yeah.
Like he's just good, wiped his hands of the whole thing.
Mm.
It just feels really callous.
Yeah.
It's not their fault that he's gay.
No, totally. Those are the ones that I feel most sorry for. And actually, I think I feel most sorry for the boy, who I don't think has got a single line in this yet. But the girl Millie, I think that the girl that played Millie is really, really good actress. I'm loving her, and I don't know whether we're going to get a whole lot of her. But I do feel dreadful that she's been put through this, not just because, any time to have your dad ripped away from you is going to be terrible for an awful lot of children. But to have him not really care, seemingly, I'm not surprised that she's going around throwing paint at hearses.
It's really difficult too, because she's 15, and so he's partly responsible for her, raising her along with Danielle, and he's obviously out of this sense of self-loathing, installed in her this kind of bigotry about homosexuality being wrong.
Yeah. And
I'm sure that we're going to be told to hate the children as well as the wife.
I really hope
at some
not.
point.
It doesn't feel at the moment that they're going down that route, because you can see that Millie was really hurting in Friday's episode. I think they're trying to elicit sympathy there, and yeah, it worked for me. But I also do think that this is Corrie's way of, like you said, saying, don't worry about the cheating. You are going to love Theo and Todd as a couple. They're made for each other.
Yeah.
But I did think that at the beginning.
Instead of being an issue storyline, it just feels like a manipulative backstory to try to make us feel... Why did they do it this way? I don't understand why they did it this way. They could have just had Theo and Todd fall in love like a normal couple would, like normal two people, and him realise he's gay, or discover his repressed feelings. Instead, they kind of like keep throwing things at this story to try to make you feel bad about Theo. But the the backstory that they've given us is that he told Todd he wasn't gay, said it was gross, was on a dating site, wasn't trying to hide his face or anything. He just there, cruising for guys online. Who knows how many dates he's had before. Why did they put that bit in? I'm just baffled by this. It just undermines the entire story. He's not a sad little victim. He was like cheating actively on his wife, and then now he's telling this story about how it's only because of Todd that he's realising his true potential. What about all the other guys that are on there? You can't tell me that was the first guy he had a date with.
I know.
I just think the whole thing's manipulative and disingenuous, and really not doing justice to the story to a story that could be really good about conversion therapy.
I don't mind it as much as you, and I think I probably will. If Corrie wants us to, I think I probably will end up liking Theo and Todd.
I find him so boring.
I don't. It doesn't feel good the way that they brought him in like this. I feel bad that Danielle's been villainised a little.
I did do like a little poll on Twitter do you feel sorry for him?
Yeah, do you feel sorry for Theo?
And it's 50-50 on whether people...
nearly. It was 58%, 59% said... 49% said that they don't feel sorry for him. Or is it that they do?
I think pretty close it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So it seems like it's won a good proportion of the fans over.
No, not really. I think that's pretty bad.
Well, 50-50. I would have said that more people beforehand would have not forgiven Theo at all. And I think that this new...
49% felt sorry, 51% did not feel sorry.
There we go. Anyway, so back to the Julie drama. George and Eileen are at the Undertaker's. Julia's in the back in the chapel arrest. Eileen's obviously heartbroken about this, came completely out of nowhere. She knew that Julie was on her way out, but she didn't realise it would happen quite so fast. She thought she'd go into a hospice and so on and so forth. Thought they'd have more time together, basically. And George kind of starts to say, oh, you know, maybe it was a blessing. She was with the person that she loved. And I thought that Eileen would take hold of that and use it against him and say, what do you mean? Maybe you're saying it's a blessing that my sister's dead. But they didn't go down that route. She's just gutted that she didn't get a proper chance to say goodbye. So Theo's telling everyone about his conversion therapy later, and it seems pretty clear that he hasn't got anywhere to go. He spent the last few days living in his van. So Todd says, come along and live at number 11. Without asking, you know, Todd doesn't know that Julie's dead at this point, does he?
No, but he knows she's got a terminal illness.
Yes, come and live with my terminally ill aunt. I'm sure nothing's going to go wrong here. Who also doesn't like you. We need a big, strong man like you to carry the coffin when she shuffles off her mortal coil.
She already told him to steer clear of this guy.
Mm. Yeah, she did earlier on the episode.
I don't even like people coming round for lunch. Let alone living in my house when I'm dying of cancer.
Right. Todd at this point looks at his phone and sees a lot of missed messages, so he thinks that something must be up and heads back. Over at number 11, Eileen and George are still coming to terms with everything that's gone on. And as are we at this point. What's going on here then? George pretends to find Julie's phone and goes, oh, look, there's some sort of video on this. Again, how does he get into it? No,
amazing.
Not. I don't know. He hands it to Eileen, who can tell he's up to something shifty. And he's like, okay, look, this is what happened. Right, I found it. Found a couple of videos. Wasn't sure I wanted you to see them either. Well, not one of them anyway. So George is watching Eileen watch the videos later on in the episode, and Eileen's just sobbing away, heartbroken by what she's seeing here. George is saying that I'm really sorry I didn't tell you earlier. I just got scared. And I think fair play to George there. Like you said, lots of people might have deleted that video.
Well, that's what she says.
But yeah, this shows that he has still got a strength of character here. Good on you, George. Extra point for you there. And he says, look, she says, look, I'm just glad that I know that Julie wanted what was best for me. Then they realise that they need to start telling people. Brian, Todd. Fortunately, Todd comes in and realises from the look on Eileen's face what's happened. So that's one news that they don't need to break.
Todd's like, oh no, I'm going to ask about my boyfriend.
Brian was sad. But again, I wasn't feeling as sad about Julie's death as I think I should have been.
No, I was unmoved.
Brian finding out kind of got there. I mean, the folk at the bar can tell from George's expression what's happened. And George is trying to tell them that the ladies had a lovely time at the lake, but you know, Brian is obviously gutted about this. He's like, I should have been there, should have been holding her hand. Everyone rallies around him.
That's such a horrible thing to rob him of if you're Julie and when you're a romantic. I want to know why she did it.
Yeah, and
that way.
She didn't leave a message for Brian.
No,
did
that's
she?
what I've been saying several times.
She's just, yeah,
She's like,
seems like she's cast him aside.
He's the love of my life.
Unless he's going to find one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe she scheduled sent an email. Maybe, who knows. Meanwhile, you got Eileen and Todd at the end of the episode watching the video from the very beginning of the episode. Todd seems to find it a little bit suspicious that both of the videos are made on the same day that she died. And then he jumps to the conclusion, and there is a lot of jumping to conclusions here, that maybe Julie did know that she was going to die. Hang on a minute. I think Julie took her own life today. And it was at that moment I was like, what are you doing, Coronation Street? Seriously, because I hadn't suspected up until this point that this was going to be a suicide story.
I thought it was just a stupid Coronation Street. Of course she would die at the most dramatic moment.
Yeah, exactly. When else? It's tradition. But when Todd said this, I was like, oh, really? Oh, that just kind of makes it worse. And I like you, grown to accept that we weren't going to have Julie around with us forever, but I didn't want it to go down this route. And from Wednesday onwards, it just took a real downward spiral. And Brian was absolutely dreadful on Wednesday. And I've been so up and down with Brian over the years, but I was really glad that they'd started to give him some serious, solid material with Julie. But Wednesday, I just didn't have any time for him because he jumped to the conclusion, with a bit of a hint, I suppose, that Eileen is responsible for Julie's death. And sorry, I do not buy that he would have leapt to that conclusion, so much so that he reported her to the police, Right,
okay. The first thing I thought when we found out that she killed herself, that she had been hoarding her own pain meds and that's why she was wincing all the time. So I thought that was a clever theory of mine, but it turned out that no, she just stole Eileen's pain meds from where she broke her rib or something, which I thought was a bit weird, because I'm sure you would be given enough pills to do what you wanted.
I thought that she did have some of her own pills as well, Julie, because she had empty packets.
Well, there's this conversation that happened about Eileen's medication versus Julie's. I don't really understand that. Secondly, I get why what's his face? Brian was upset because he felt robbed of this final moment. But if he stopped to think about it for 5 seconds, he would have realised that unless Eileen murdered Julie, Eileen helped Julie to end her life, and therefore it was what she wanted, and that if it was what Julie wanted, then she wouldn't want Eileen to go to prison for it. And this bloody-minded pursuit, and there was never a conversation. This is the thing. Sometimes Coronation Street characters do stuff like this, and all it would take is for a little conversation of somebody saying this or pointing this out, and the character saying, well, I don't care because. But when they don't even address it or even consider it, it feels quite unnatural.
Yeah, totally. It just felt like conflict for conflict's sake.
That's what all this nitpicking that I do is about. Is about wanting things to feel natural and real.
So the beginning of the episode is just everybody having a bit of a grieve in the lounge still. Mary's buzzing around. George comes downstairs.
Mary reminds me of those of the little Muppets in Christmas Carol that are looting the corpse of Ebenezer Scrooge.
Why?
Because on Friday she's like, oh, does she want that necklace?
Oh yeah, she did, didn't she? Yeah.
Oh, it's still warm.
It's the only warmth she ever had. George says, look, it's this suicide theory. I'm not buying this. Her body probably just gave up. And then Todd comes down along with Theo, who stayed the night, and at least he offers his condolences. Eileen just wants to go for a walk. She can't be doing with this busy house.
Totally.
Yeah. What were they up to in that bedroom?
Todd, put your hand in your pocket, you greasy little skinflint, and let your boyfriend stay in a hotel for the night. Your mum doesn't want your boyfriend knocking around with no clothes on while she's trying to grieve her sister who might have killed herself.
No, I hear that Debbie does very reasonable rates.
He should have entered the pub quiz. He could have won a room for the night.
Tell you what, if Theo goes over to Chariot Square, he can get in on one of Debbie's first ever divorce parties, can't he?
He can do,
He could be the poster man for it with his guns out.
Have you got a discount? Because it turns out that I was gay. No, you actually have to pay extra for that because I'm going to make it fabulous.
Debbie makes all celebrations fabulous, Gemma, gay or straight. Come on. Eileen, yes, she says, I need to go for a walk. I can't be doing with all this here. George catches up with her and says, we need to talk about things. Maybe come along to the Undertakers later. Just come and talk in the place of death. I'm sure that'll make you feel at ease. So I was really glad that Glenda somewhat got involved in this. We got one scene of her at the Undertakers later, and she's being a lovely, strong, supportive sister. She can't believe what she's hearing about what Julie said about Eileen and George not being suitable for each other. I'd like Glenda and George, they just never have anything to do with each other, do they? It's like Kirk and Maria, apart from the awful story last year. But yeah, I appreciated that moment, to be honest. Anyway, Eileen comes in. They immediately fall silent. So she's like, you told her about the video, haven't you? Then that leads to some stern words between the two ladies. Basically, it ends up with Eileen telling George in no uncertain terms that he and her being together is not high on her list of priorities right now, actually.
Well then, if it's...
I don't like this. I don't like Eileen and George.
I don't like the way George is being blamed for all of this.
No.
Like he's done anything wrong. It's like I've literally just been minding my own business until Julie decided to target me for some character assassination over the last month. Made me look like a right arse.
Yeah, I know, totally. Brian comes around number 11 later, and he and Mary set to kind of helping to pack things up and sort out the house. And he looks in Julie's medicine box, and this is when he discovers that there are some missing painkillers there. Brian, meanwhile, is over at the cafe with Roy and Billy, two of whom have also got experience in the ways of suicide and have had partners who have considered or even done it.
He goes, he finds the missing meds, and then he goes to the cafe.
Yeah, he goes over there, doesn't he? Yeah, sorry. He says, look,
I know what's happened.
I think I know what's happened here. The medicines are all gone. There was an empty packet of Eileen's medicine there too. Where did it all go? Unless she took it, all of it. Then basically, he starts to suspect that Eileen was in on it too.
He literally jumps to conclusions based on the fact that she took Eileen's medicine as well.
Yeah, I don't buy it. It was just so clumsily and clunkily done. Eileen says Brian needs to be careful about what he says. To whom? But Brian's pretty convinced by this point. Roy even says, actually, it's Billy, I think, that says this. Roy even says, even if this is what happened, this is what Julie wanted. And Brian's like, well, it wasn't her only choice. I should have been told about it, so I could have tried to talk her out of it.
Yeah, he's decided that Eileen knew and didn't tell him. And that's what drives a lot of this, because he thinks that if Eileen... Yeah, you think he'd still have Julie if it wasn't for Eileen.
Yeah. Then we had a really quite nice scene of Sean and Eileen on Martin's bench together in Victoria Gardens. It was definitely felt like a bit of a cut for Canada scene, didn't it? It was him inviting her along to the Rovers later for a little drink in Julie's name. But I enjoyed that. I think Anthony and Sue both did a great job there, and then he puts a head on her shoulder, and it was a nice bit of peace in amongst all this pool of drama that Eileen's desperately paddling her way through at the moment. So then we have Millie turning up at the Undertakers to have it out with her dad. Mum's in bits. What you doing? What's going on? Have you left us? What's going on with the family? Come on, why are you here? What are you doing here? She thinks you didn't get a whole lot. But he kind of tells her this and that, and she just says, "Well, all our memories are a big fat lie, Dad. You wasted space." Storms
this is what Danielle was saying too.
Yeah.
Like everything that we've built our lives on has been a lie.
So we then get to see Julie's do in the pub. Not a big turnout, I'm going to say. I did see a post. Was it on Reddit?
More people would have gone to the day out, it looks like, than turned up for the wake.
For the wake. And I think I saw a post on Reddit I was saying which had a picture, because they had a big VE Day celebration in EastEnders this week, and the Queen Vic was absolutely rammed, and there was a picture of that versus the 5 people who turned up to say goodbye to Julie with a couple of balloons. It was quite telling, but I guess Glenda wasn't wrong on Friday when the potential buyers came round and she said, yeah, we don't get many customers.
No.
She was telling the truth.
That one's going to die soon as well. Look at her.
Anyway, they raise a toast to Julie, and then Craig comes in wanting a word with Eileen. He's like, I need to ask you a few questions in relation to Julie's death. And it's all really quite awkward for Craig. And he kind of leads her off.
Because Eileen's got no idea what he's talking about.
It's like, give us the viewers a chance to grieve for Julie before you bring in all of this.
I don't mind this. I know that yeah, you've got a problem with how quickly this turned into that. That doesn't bother me. It's just all of the logistics and the connections, and I don't think a lot of it was natural or made sense.
Yeah. Julie, Eileen thinks that George has done or said something, doesn't she, to the police to get her arrested, and he's desperately saying no, it wasn't me. And then he says, what's this?
Well, no, Roy and Brian come in, and then Brian starts saying,
that's it.
"Aha, I've reported Eileen to the police."
Yes, you're right. Brian comes in crowing that I'm the one that did it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
very weird,
Brian,
and he's very
hell?
full of himself. And this is when they have this really clunky conversation about Paul and assisted dying,
the suicide
proposals.
squad together there.
Yeah.
So we get to see Swain interviewing Eileen, even though earlier on the episode we'd seen that she was at the bistro, so she was just having a little midday drinky, I think, maybe. So she's there grilling
like going,
Eileen.
Listen here, okay? just because. Right. So I don't even know what you're here for. Actually, what's going on?
They've got Julie's wash bag as evidence. Swain says, I think we need a solicitor here. Yeah, the wash bag gets brought in midway through the interview, doesn't it? Had Julie talked about ending her life? Eileen's like, no, clearly. She tells her everything that happened. She said, I'd never left her out on her own to die either.
Yeah.
And Swain says, well, if you had, this could have been seen as murder. If you'd done this, you could get sent down for this,
well
Mrs.
done,
Grimshaw.
Swain, if you killed someone, it would be murder.
Exactly.
But
well, no, this is assisted suicide, isn't it?
Well, she says it could be murder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which because suicide is not legal.
There's no such thing as assisted suicide as a legal conception at the moment.
No, and Eileen's like, no, didn't kill my sister. What on earth?
It's not illegal to kill yourself. It used to be.
Yeah.
So.
I just hated this. Brian and Roy are in the cafe later. Brian's still insistent that his story is clearly the only thing that makes sense here. He's going to see that Eileen's going to be punished for it. I know that he is supposed to be a bit of a pompous buffoon in his ways, but this week wasn't the week to show that. Here. Yeah, it really wasn't. I'm just glad that Mary didn't get in on this as well, because she'd have been even more insufferable, wouldn't she? Yeah. She'd have been parading down the street saying, Eileen's a murderer.
She probably would have made a placard.
She totally would have done. Roy says, look, maybe Julie was just trying to protect you from the pure, unadulterated agony of knowing what she was thinking of doing. And Brian's like, no, she could have had a peaceful death. If she'd needed help, it should have been me. And Roy said, think yourself lucky that it wasn't.
Do you not think it's really funny that he's like, Eileen's a murderer. It should have been me.
I should have been the murderer here.
Yeah.
I wanted to have a death count, not that Eileen. That family's already got one. She was married to Pat Phelan.
Yeah, they've got loads of murders under their belts, probably.
Yeah.
I'm the only one in Coronation Street.
The Packham clan have been squeaky clean up until this point.
I'm fed up with being the only one who hasn't been arrested.
Yeah, exactly. This week could have been the perfect opportunity to have shown Brian's flat as well, wouldn't it? We've been saying we've been missing it these past 10 years. If we didn't get it this week, we're not getting it at all. Brian says, yeah, I did like how Roy, because Roy clearly didn't enjoy what happened with Hayley at the end.
He hated it.
He wasn't
He'd get really mad about it.
Supportive of it, was it? He went along with it because he loved her, but it was absolutely the worst.
And he was furious afterwards with her for ages.
Yeah, he didn't want to go to her funeral, did he?
I think he ruined it as well. I can't really remember, but it's interesting that he is the one who's trying to temper Brian's upset here.
Yeah.
He didn't really say those things to Brian about how he felt angry as well, but I think anyone who watched it then will remember how he reacted, and so it's not just that they both knew a woman who ended her life because of a terminal illness. It's that they both reacted in a really kind of bonkers way.
Yeah.
Which is like, how else would you?
there's no wrong way to act when you're in a situation like this. But
well, if you don't go a bit bonkers, you're probably not human.
Anyway, Theo comes back to the house later, number 11, after speaking a little bit more with Millie, and he's like, I don't think there's any way back for her. For her and me, she, her mum, her brother, they have certain beliefs, he said. And for her to forgive me, I need to repent, which I don't. So yeah, he's basically is saying, I'm cutting my kids and my wife out of my life now.
Of my family, because I helped to brainwash them to not accept gay people.
Yeah. Anyway.
And the way the expression on his face, I might be remembering this wrong, but he just looks genuinely kind of relieved and a little bit happy.
His family have been this millstone round his neck.
It's so unfair because they didn't do anything wrong. And
it's not
they shouldn't be homophobic. Of course they shouldn't be, but who taught them that?
I don't remember whether they said that Danielle was involved in the attempted brainwashing of Theo.
No, because he was too...
But the kids
were young. Yeah, but he was young. He was in school.
Yeah.
I don't know how he would know his wife then.
No, I don't know, but yeah,
maybe if they were in the same church.
Work for me. Eileen is eventually released from the police station.
I just want to be completely clear here that, like, in no way do I think that Theo should have gone through that. Nobody should have done. It's awful. It shouldn't happen to anybody. And I feel bad for anybody this has happened to. But this is why I don't like the storyline, because it doesn't feel to me like it's being very sympathetic to people that have gone through this. It's not... I just feel like it's not representing that experience in a very positive way at all.
No, I don't.
And it is complicated and difficult to explain. It's a really complicated and difficult subject to discover this about yourself and blow up your life in the way that he has done. So don't do it with a really unlikable side character.
Yeah, I know, agree. Eileen gets released from prison. George is there to give her a hug. And Anne's to tell her that it was Brian who reported her. And we get, a moment of, will they get back together again here? Because Eileen's like, oh, thanks for fighting my corner. So they go home, sit on the sofa. Eileen says, I'm sorry about lashing out at you earlier. Just can't believe that Julie didn't think of the consequences here. Why couldn't she have left another tape explaining, now I'm going to be charged for murder, for killing my own flesh and blood?
Yeah.
And, yeah... Why didn't Julie do that?
Because she didn't
Did she run out of tape?
No, she just didn't want anybody to know that she'd done it. And I get that. And it's bloody Todd's fault, so nobody would have put it together. If it was Jason there and not Todd, he would never have worked it out, would he? Jason would be like, that's such a weird coincidence. She told me she was going to kill herself and then she died. I don't know what happened.
Anyway... Today's episode rolls round and Eileen starts the episode coping in the cafe.
What does that mean?
Well, she's just sitting there and the people are saying, how are you doing? And she says she's coping.
Oh, I thought you meant she was drinking.
She's drinking she's got a cup of tea with her, hasn't she? Or
cider,
something.
It's better, probably.
Theo's still staying at number 11, assuring Todd, things are going to turn out fine with
I said one
Eileen.
night, Theo.
I know. He's still there and he's there for good now. He's like Sean, they probably said that to him too. George says... I don't know whether things are going to turn out with Eileen, actually. He's really quite worried that Eileen maybe did do this. And then he and Todd are like, they might find traces of these tablets in Julie's blood. But what if she was embalmed? Basically, they agree that she probably did do it, and Eileen probably did help her. So let's
cover up the evidence
by giving her an autopsy.
Not
an autopsy.
Embalming her.
Sorry, got my vocab wrong there. You got Craig coming in. Craig, he's back from hiding under a rock. He's gonna be in CID again. He's got another secondment.
Nice.
Can only see good things happening for him there. So it's going to mean that he's going to be.
Not wearing a uniform anymore.
He's going to be walking around
with
Kit,
isn't
he? Yeah, Jess is going to be there.
Jess is going to be by herself.
Yeah. Craig comes into and then tells Todd, look, my colleague's going to come and collect Julie's body later for autopsy. And Todd jumps in and says, oh, she's already embalmed. Craig goes off, a bit annoyed
I literally
about this.
could not believe this. Craig's like, shucks. Is there no chain of custody somebody's already been questioned about this? how often...
Everything in the
I don't know
procedure
anything
here
about
just doesn't
this.
feel quite right.
It
You're right, we're
doesn't
not
feel right.
experts.
I've never been involved in anything like this, but I would have thought, surely, that if you've been questioned about a murder, the body gets put into some kind of government facility for checking...
Stick him in a fridge.
To see whether you've been killed or not. Not just left at the local funeral parlour.
It smacks of police incompetency.
The person who's dating the prime suspect.
Yeah, he has kind of got a bit of a vested interest
and then
in this,
Craig rocks up and went, oh, I guess, well, if you've already embalmed the corpse...
Yeah. The husband, boyfriend of the person that's suspected murdering is allowed to handle the corpse as much as she likes. And then the police officer who comes to investigate is someone who just lives around the corner. It's all very cosy, isn't it? It's just a massive...
it's corrupt.
It's corruption in its
Weatherfield
highest form,
is a corrupt state.
Yeah, it really is. Anyway, look.
Well, it's all a ruse.
And Kit is at the top of it.
Yeah.
Yes, they haven't actually embalmed her. And I'm watching this go, okay, fine. They haven't embalmed her. George says... What are we going to do then? We need to tell the truth. I'm just going to say that you got it wrong, or that.
No, I said that he should say that.
Yeah, Todd's like.
Literally, all they have to do is go. Sorry, we got really confused. Well, this is an emotional time.
But Todd says, no, I think we should embalm her for real because we've said we've embalmed her now. But honestly,
it's not the sort of thing that you really have to go forward with committing a crime because you told somebody you committed a crime, and now it's like embarrassing.
Yeah. I said that I killed my wife, but she's still alive, so I better do it.
It's embarrassing.
I suppose.
I don't want to look unprofessional.
Yeah, God, well, I have a red face if they find her walking up and down the precinct tonight. I don't know what my wife's doing in the precinct late at night. But...
If it's me, I'm looking for chips. Somebody's dropped some on the floor, probably.
So it's all a bit...
And George is like...
George is like, no, if we... This is going to make me look... and Eileen look complicit in Julie's murder.
Well, but then he gets convinced because Todd's like, oh, I think that this might get you some brownie points with Eileen. And he's like, yeah, it is more important.
I kind of feel a bit bad. I didn't see who wrote today's episode, but for them to be given this plot outline...
They didn't come up...
said, write a script for this then, eh? Go on, here's a challenge for you. Make this make sense.
I always like to... say when I think the episode is really well written and sort of praise, the writer and stuff. But when it goes off the rails like this, I really do not blame the writer because they don't come up with a scenario, and there's so much more involved in writing a script than you would think. Like, you don't just get to do what you want, and they don't just say to you, here's the general idea of what the story is. You've got so many other considerations about which sets you can use and which characters can be in which scenes and how long you've got with, it's so much more complicated, and it's a miracle this show even gets made half the time because of how complicated the whole thing is.
Many cogs in the wheel of Coronation Street.
I know, but this this machine is just, the cogs have gone. I don't know what's happened.
They did this week. Then you get a little scene with Mary and Eileen having a look through Julie's bag later, and Mary says, I know that you're innocent, Eileen, and you got George on your side too. And Eileen's like, yeah, George is a good man after all.
He's a good man.
And literally, you said, cut to George with his well, I can't even remember what you said, but you were right, weren't you? George,
I know. I tell you what, I literally know what I said, and it was quite crude. I said, cut to George sticking a tube up Julie's arse. Didn't get to see that.
But you did see him putting his... I've written it in the notes, comedy embalming gear, but I suppose it's just general embalming gear, but to have that quick cut to him looking like he's got his scrubs on, he's about to...
Well, look,
honestly, it looked like really... it looked like something out of a Carry On film, didn't it? Like Carry On embalming.
Oh my God. This is very triggering to some people, I know.
I know it is.
And I know when
this is our way of coping with the silliness of it.
When they put the funeral parlour in, a lot of people said there's going to be stuff here that I'm not going to find funny, and this is not a source of comedy. And I was like, I think sometimes I think there's a bit of an overreaction to say that, it's going to be insensitive, because some jokes can be funny without being insensitive.
And I think that's one way we are in this country cope with really tragic things like death by making a bit of a joke of it. Dark humour, exactly. I mean, the character of Archie Shuttleworth, he was funny guy and he was an undertaker, and that worked, but it hasn't.
Having the set there, I think, invites this sort of thing, there
have been comedy antics, haven't there, in the funerals, like when
I mean.
Todd dropped the urn and the ashes spilled everywhere.
It's not
that one time.
It's not funny. It's not a funny joke. And they were saying about they got the wrong corpse in a coffin or something. It's like, it's not really funny, is it? It's not like a proper laugh out loud joke.
And it's not something like the viewers are going to go, oh yeah, that happens to me all the time.
Yeah, it's not relatable.
Oh, I've done that.
The only time you're going to really relate to anything to do with a funeral is because you know someone who's died. And you're not going to be like, oh, gosh, if that happened to my mum, I'd be furious.
I know.
It's just not. It just doesn't work.
It sometimes
there are
works,
some jokes. No, there are some jokes you can do without being disrespectful about the entire process of a funeral.
Yeah.
And I think that Coronation Street at times doesn't.
Well, look, whilst you had George in the chapel of rest doing whatever you do to embalm somebody with Julie's favourite music on, then you had Todd having a little dance, didn't he? It was like, oh,
why was that happen? That was bad.
And George just said, don't let anyone in.
Yep.
Don't let the police in. Guard the door with your life.
He's like,
Todd.
I could lock the door, but I'm going to rely on you to stand there. And that's all you have to do is guard.
Yeah. And why didn't Todd? Yeah, some oik comes along, which turns out to be Millie later, and throws paint over his hearse, and he gives chase. But come on, Todd, you've been given one job. It's not worth it, chasing after this scally, just to risk this whole thing being blown apart, which it was.
That's just a bad choice from a character.
Yeah, it was. It was a bad choice. It was.
Some things I can forgive as a bad choice from a character that has to happen to move the plot forward.
But this was a bit of a life and death situation.
It wasn't treated like it.
Has been accused of murder, and Todd's like, "Oh, it'll be fine."
This is what I don't get about this whole story. Is that this is super serious. This is like abuse of a corpse. This is hiding evidence for a murder investigation. But then when Craig comes in and George is at the back doing something unspeakable with a hose, and then they're like, oh, what's happening? And he comes out with this expression on his face like he's just been caught licking the butter. And he's got this in his hands. You know that he
has been caught licking the butter at number 11, hasn't he?
And in his hands,
Sunny eyelash.
He comes
just
out
a bit peckish.
He comes out in his hands holding these really vicious looking tongs, which again invite your brain to wonder what it is he has been doing with this poor dead character's body. It just was really, and is this funny? I don't know, because George's expression made it look like it was. We were all supposed to go rolling around on the floor. It did look
a little bit like something that a gynecologist might use, didn't it?
You don't need to say things like that.
But you're right. The expression that George, he's like he'd been caught being a naughty boy.
I don't know why he had to have the tongs in his hand. I thought that was a bit too far, unless this is supposed to be funny, in which case I'm going to tell you that it isn't funny. All of the work that they did to try to make this story about Julie and her tragic ending into something that's going to make you cry, which it didn't do anyway, would have been erased at this point, because we're...
Yeah, exactly.
He comes out with tongs. That's really gross and kind of... confronting for most people.
It's funny in the same way that Dennis Tanner's urn being run over by an ambulance is funny, i.e. not at all a beloved character. And also Pat Phelan, beloved by many, the good people.
Yeah.
Getting his ashes thrown in the bin, didn't he?
Yeah.
Corrie, what are you doing, man?
He didn't need to come out with the tongs in his hand. No. I just think it's really kind of unfair and upsetting for people that have just... I know this is really po-faced of me, and I get accused of being sanctimonious all the time, but just to have the tongs in his hand, it was just a bit of a step too far, because we don't know what gets done, most of us. We don't want to know. And to see that piece of equipment really makes you wonder what the hell it was used for, why he had it, and it's just not something you want to watch it. Like, is this supposed to be a family show still? I don't know. Was it funny? I don't think so. Was it sad? Not really. What was the tone they were trying to create with this piece of medical equipment that we know has just been used?
I think they stuck it up her nose and pulled her brain out like the ancient Egyptian pharaohs.
You don't need to think about it. Then why did they do it?
Silly scene. Todd catches up with Millie later and he has a bit of a go at her, and then Theo comes along and tells him to back off because Theo still has been friendly with Todd, but he doesn't like seeing him having a rant at his daughter. And interestingly, Millie does kind of go along with Theo, doesn't she? She's
well, it's
like,
now
Dad.
become Millie and Theo versus Todd, because it's much easier for her to blame Todd for what has happened than to accept her dad is gay and has decided to pick...
I bear no ill will to Millie for paint bombing the
She
hearse.
thinks that he's picked being gay over being her dad.
Yeah.
And now...
There's a lot to take in.
Yeah, exactly.
Later on, you got Mary and Eileen in the pub in a booth talking about how lovely and kind Julie was. Also about how Mary used to be a bit sapphic for Annie Lennox as well. She must do a double take every time that Debbie walks past her. And like, oh my God, oh, it's only you, Debbie.
You look so kind.
Then Tracy comes in, and she didn't have a whole lot to do this week, did she, Tracy? But she was on good form today, telling everybody that George and Eileen are the body snatchers from Weatherfield, and Eileen's just been seen being... George has just been seen being bundled into a police car.
I think she needs to do a bit more research into what body snatchers do.
Don't matter. George gets home later. He has a go at Todd for dropping him in it. Rightly so, I'm going to say. He says, look, I've told the police what happened. I don't know.
What did he tell them?
I did wonder what he told them. He says, I told them everything. They believe me. But...
What did he say? Because
yeah, I was trying...
I mean, I thought that Eileen killed Julie, so I said that I'd embalmed her, but I hadn't. And then I thought I'd better embalm her, actually, because it might look suspicious when you turn up and she's not embalmed.
Eileen is like... Did you just... This has made me look even more guilty, you utter pillock. I don't need protection, thank you. I have done nothing wrong.
Is it not like a crime to... Even if it turns out that Eileen's completely off the hook, right? And they say, oh yeah, we've looked into it. We don't think that you did anything wrong. Or if so, we can't prove it. Despite all that, would it not be actually a crime what George did to knowingly interfere with a corpse to derail a police investigation?
Yes, totally.
So why did he say anything at all?
Oh my God.
Is this going to be one of those things at the end, like at the beginning of next week? They're going to go. Craig's going to come and go. We've decided to drop all the charges.
Yeah. You're off the hook, Eileen.
And here's the sort of thing that the local paper, if Bethany was in the show, this would be the sort of thing that she could write about.
Oh yeah, what's the headline?
Corruption at the local at the undertakers.
Yeah.
Abuse of a corpse.
Undertakers under investigation.
Yeah.
Right, Brian comes round later and says, look, I'm sorry for everything. A little bit out of character. Well, it wasn't, in some ways it was out of character for him on Wednesdays, but in other ways it wasn't at all. But it wasn't a good look for Brian. But he's back to normal and back to the bosom of the family at number 11 by the end of today's episode. And Eileen's forgiven him. She says, oh, Eileen's left you Julie's left you a book. Oh yeah, I missed the bit about Julie's bequeathals being made public, being revealed to Eileen, and apparently Eileen's been left everything, whatever that is, and Brian's got a book out of it.
Yeah, she doesn't say how much it is because she's about to, and then she gets interrupted.
Buy the Rovers, Eileen.
And you also
go get it for a steal.
Brushed over the fact that she realises that George and Todd think that she did do it.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But she didn't.
Yeah. So anyway, Eileen's going to be rolling in cash. Very handy. How much do you
reckon she's got?
I don't know. It's
a
pointless endeavour saying how much money Julie's got. I mean, she's very fabulously dressed, so I'm going to say that she's not
spent all her money on clothes.
She might have done, mightn't she? If they auction off Julie's wardrobe, you could get quite a pretty penny for
put
that.
it on eBay.
Yeah, put it on ITV Read.
Yeah, I'll buy some. Yeah. I love her style.
I know.
I want to buy one of her.
You want to buy a cape?
Yeah, a cape.
Yeah, you could be that a superhero.
I could be pregnant like she was when she had
girl. It on. George sidles up to Eileen in the kitchen later, and he's like, "Well, why did you lie to Brian? Why didn't you?" Because Eileen's told him that she's only getting a few bits and bobs from Julie. And she says, look, it's because everyone thinks that I bumped Julie off. And this would be even a big motive if people knew that I was going to be cashing in on it. And thanks to you and Todd, the police are going to now suspect me even more. She kind of calms down a little bit from her anger when Brian comes in, but it raises right back up again by the end of the episode. She's like, when are you going to get it into your thick skull, George, that I have done nothing wrong? Get out of my sight. Chucks a mug at him, smashes on the wall. This looks like curtains for George and Eileen.
That's domestic abuse.
Or is it going to be in the first scene on Monday's episode where he comes down and is like, have you forgiven me? And she's like, yeah, sorry, I just wanted a cliffhanger on Friday's episode. It's fine, really.
Now can you clean the wall, please?
So, bit of a messy story that did take up quite a big chunk of the week.
Yes, and a lot of people found out what had happened to Julie from the clip that Coronation Street uploaded to YouTube.
Oh yes, that was the other thing, wasn't it? I forgot about that. So the end of Monday's episode was, hang on a minute, did Julie kill herself? Uploaded to ITV.
And you could have very well have gone, no, probably not. That's just a cliffhanger for Monday.
Yeah, because exactly. But no, Coronation Street uploaded the video clips, the choice clips from Monday's episode entitled "Julie Takes Her Own Life." So it's like, Corrie has now spoiled itself with a video title on YouTube. Like, is there no end to this?
No.
Honestly, it was, not a great week for this story. I don't know how they can get out of this, as in how they can make it. Because you're right, Craig can just come around and say, we've decided to stop the investigation. Maybe another video will find. Julie's not going to be... I mean, Eileen's not going to be sent down for murder, is she? Seriously.
I will say, and I said this, I think, last week, about medical storylines. The only good thing I'll say, I'll give them their dues on, is that they can't do the normal wriggling out of consequences like every other story on Coronation Street does, where somebody waves a magic wand and 60 grand comes out. Or the police decide they're not going to pursue the matter any further, or somebody decides something completely out of character. Like, if you get diagnosed with a terminal illness, you're going to die and there's no getting out of it. So from that perspective, it's got that going for it at least. But what I really wish that Coronation Street would do is be consistent and keep consequences of things that happen.
Yeah, I know. I know
we all know that.
So I just hope that they wrap this up quickly.
Don't make a story about something that you don't want to happen because it's inconvenient for you, and you're not going to carry through with it.
Yeah,
you don't have to make a story about anything.
Totally.
You can make up what you want. It's all fictional.
Right, Gemma, I think we need to lay off Coronation Street for a little while and maybe talk about a story which I don't feel too bad about. The Dee-Dee story. Do you want to go on the lay off story to find out what's happened to young baby Laila this week?
Well, the good news is that Danny's fine.
Yes, apparently so. I thought that Danny was on death's door and he was going to be shuffling off his mortal coil.
Maybe Danny's going to do a Pope.
What do you mean?
Where everyone's like, he's really ill. And he's like, no, I'm fine. And then the next day he dies.
Yeah, no, Danny's all right now, isn't he?
Well, he might be dead next week.
Yeah.
He might be rallying. But no, sadly, it looks like Danny's probably fine.
But just as Dee-Dee's just growing to love her daughter.
Well, yeah, she's taking Laila for a walk, and Julie sort of greets her and comes out the cafe. And
good old Julie. What's going to happen to her? And
I think that there's this kind of bond between these three women where, you know, Dee-Dee's looking death in the face, basically, when she sees Julie, and probably thinking about how precious the time is that she's got, etc., etc. And then Eileen's like, you should go with your instinct and let the future take care of itself. Everybody is just guilt-tripping this woman to keep this baby. Every time they see her, they're like, a mother always knows what to do for the best. Not saying you have to keep her, but if you didn't, you'd just be a horrible woman, wouldn't you?
I just realised from that quote that Eileen gives there, I wonder whether Julie gives a look, because she goes with her instinct later in that episode, doesn't she? And lets things take care of themselves.
She was talking to everybody, but she didn't realise what she was truly saying. So, Ronnie sees Dee-Dee singing "You Are My Sunshine" to Laila, and he's like, interesting. But then she says, Dee-Dee, to Laila, I don't regret having you, but I don't think I can be who you need me to be. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that is not really nice that Dee-Dee is still sticking to her guns.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, I think all women should give up babies for adoption and it's awful to have children, yada, yada, yada. But what I don't like the idea of is at the end of all of this, even though Dee-Dee is doing something she thinks is really difficult, but it's for the best, that it turns out that she was just deluded and
I know.
she should be with her baby, because I think that's just such an easy thing to say.
Out, yeah.
Right. So Alia goes to visit them at the flat and Dee-Dee says, look, I've really enjoyed having her, but I still want her to go to James. And Ali's like, oh, but she's a baby. Why shouldn't you keep my baby? It's so cute. Debbie catches up with Dee-Dee in the pram later, and this is when they see James arriving. And Dee-Dee is kind of a bit shocked. And
yeah, I can't remember whether they said before that he was going to come back or whether it was a surprise visit, but it felt like Dee-Dee wasn't seeing it coming.
Well, yeah. So James takes Laila. They go into the house. He's giving her a cuddle. Oh, thanks for looking after her. I'm thinking of staying a few days and then I'll go back to America when Danny's out of the hospital. And Dee-Dee says, no, you just take the baby and go. So they get into a taxi and Dee-Dee hugs whatever, and then she cries. And I kind of forgot this happened.
Well, it's too much Julie stuff this week, isn't it? Yeah. So Laila is now flying across the Atlantic, never to be seen again.
This to me makes me think that Layla's, something's going to happen and she's going to come back, because this didn't feel like a very conclusive ending to a really important part of Dee-Dee's life.
Yeah.
So, on Wednesday, Dee-Dee's like, I'm doing work now.
I'm moving on.
Baby gone. I'm doing stuff. She goes to the cafe and she finds Roy with a candle and with a cupcake because it's Hayley's birthday. And he says, I miss her. These fleeting moments you never realise. And Dee-Dee gets emotional and rushes out.
Yes, because she realises that she's going to be missing her baby.
Well, it's quite poignant that there was a single candle in the cupcake. And she's going to miss her daughter's first birthday.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the next one, and so on. That's her plan.
It was quite nice that Hayley got a couple of shout-outs this week, wasn't it? And the moment where he sits and blows the candle out, I think, Corrie fans of a certain era also raised a glass to Hayley at that moment.
It says, happy birthday, my love.
Very sweet. I maybe might have liked a little bit more of a speech, but...
Oh, God. Not everyone can have a soliloquy in a bloody musical montage.
They'd already had their week's quota of soliloquies, hadn't they, with Julie at the beginning of Mondays.
Sarah Lou finds Dee-Dee with a bottle of wine in the bistro.
Oh, yes. This is Dee-Dee's... is 3 Sheets to the Wind, isn't she? And Sarah comes in and Dee-Dee's like, Sarah Lou, how are you? And I think again, lots of Corrie fans cheered when she got called Sarah Lou.
So Michael comes and takes her home. She wakes up on the sofa because she's been drunk. And she says, I'm at peace with what I have done with Laila, but I wish I'd had more time. But my hysterectomy has all been taken away. I haven't got any fight. I don't want to carry on doing this nurse training stuff. And he says, I believe in you. You can do it. And then he goes and she calls Wes, the midwife, or whoever he is, to talk to him. I don't know. They're still called midwife. I don't know what she's calling him for.
I think she's just going to say, let's get our asses in gear and do this nurse training thing or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. There wasn't much to that story really, was there? It was just a lot of scenes of Dee-Dee bonding with Laila. Laila goes, Dee-Dee's pretending that everything's fine when obviously it's not.
I think Danny's going to die.
Do you still think so?
And because I can't see how Layla's going to come back. I'm convinced that Dee-Dee's going to end up with Laila. But how is that going to happen without Laila coming back to England? And there's no reason whatsoever currently for James to bring her back.
No.
Unless Danny dies and he's like, I'm so sad. I can't stay in America.
Yeah, I mean, James has said, well, I am going to stay away because you're telling me to stay away.
Yeah.
But maybe Dee-Dee will just say, look, you don't need to live in America for me, but, they're starting a new life out there and they've got a job.
Well,
so they're not going to come back just because she said so.
To be honest with you, I was a bit worried about being in America because of Trump and all that stuff, but now the Pope's American, I feel much safer. So I'm going to stay in America and I'm going to go in Chicago because That's the Pope's. That's the Holy Land now.
It is. Right, Mick and the Nick.
Does that make a Chicago deep dish pizza food of the gods?
It certainly does. Does. Mick and the Nick. So I quite enjoyed this on Wednesday, and I surprised myself by how intrigued I was between this newly uncovered history between Kit and Mick, which has not been that much of a secret for anyone with a bit of an interest in Coronation Street spoilers. I know. I'm not interested in Coronation Street spoilers, but sometimes they come my way. So I think lots of people knew that these two were going to have some kind of link. And but I was all ready to hate it. And actually, I quite enjoyed these scenes, but it didn't work for you, did it?
This is really funny because you don't really like Kit, do you?
No, I don't really like Kit at all. And I certainly don't like Mick.
I really like Kit. I think he's great. But I just could not be bothered with this. I found this completely uninteresting. Because I'm like, I can kind of guess what's going on here, and it's not that interesting.
I think I just like that it's hinting at a bit of backstory, and Mick's gonna possibly have a few more layers and be a bit more three-dimensional as a character coming out to the end of it, which
there are lots of other characters that I know that fans would rather know the backstory of, and I'm gonna say another thing too about Kit, because Kit is Kit the Git, right? He's a nasty piece of work, and
Kit the Git and Mick the
we know enough about his backstory to know why, don't we? He's abandoned by his mum. He was adopted. His mum rejected him again, and
they would turn anyone into a bent copper.
Well, he's clearly struggled a lot with his background and his being rejected by his mum, and then seeing, them having happy families and everything without him. I don't know that I need to know what happened with Mick and Kit to make both of them into arseholes.
I don't really need to, but I will. Yeah, I say as I think that the way they played it to me made me go, oh, but what is it though?
Go on then, you tell me. So
basically, Mick's been brought into the police station for being a bit free with his fists in the dog and gun car park. He's given someone a good punching, and when Kit walks into the interview room and Mick's on a chair, Mick just kind of gives this really intriguing smirk when he sees Kit, and it's like, oh, it's you. And now clearly these two have got some sort of agreement whereby they can't admit to knowing each other.
Yeah,
so whatever it is that's happened in the past,
that is intriguing. Why would that be?
It's enough to say we cannot have any contact with each other again. Now, the big elephant in the room here is the fact that Kit and Mick have been living very, very close to each other. Literally, Mick his second home has been Kit's sister's house.
And Kit's been round there.
I would have thought that maybe, does Gemma and Chesney not have any pictures of new brother Kit up in number 5, or is the walls too fill up with horrible children's drawings?
Well, I also thought there was a bit where, was it Debbie or Ronnie or somebody was having a go at Mick for making a loud noise, and then Kit came along because he was there.
I thought,
and they were like, "Police, tell him off."
I mean, it could be that they have known about each other, but like I said, have they got some kind of agreement? We can never acknowledge each other's existence again, and now they've been kind of thrown into a situation where they almost can't help but admit it. I mean, they keep it quiet for the police interview, don't they?
Well, because there's another person in the room.
Yeah, there's another PC in there.
Yeah, go on.
And Kit's not really digging that deeply, really, is he? He says, he's basically lets him out before nothing. Did you beat someone up? No. And he kind of no comments his way a little bit through it. And he's like, yeah, I used to be a bit of a scally, but I've paid my debts now. Know what I mean? So there's, these two have been up to no good in the past for sure. Kit lets him go and Mick swaggers out. And then this is when the other PC says, well, why didn't you ask about the other witness statements? We had so much evidence here that you didn't present to him. And he's like, this is my interview. I'll do what I want. And then when he leaves the station later, Mick's there waiting to ambush him. And he says, look, we need to have a chat. So, yeah, it turns out that long ago in the past, they used to be mates. But Kit says that I'm not that person anymore. I've moved on. And Mick's like, oh, yeah, is that true?
I thought that they were completely different ages for some reason.
Apparently not. So, yeah, they've got up to something. I mean, this is a bit like...
This is like we ran into a woman on the way from doing a heist in a petrol station, and it turns out her name was Susan Barlow.
Or we ran into somebody when we were doing a bank job, and I'm Johnny Connor in the getaway car.
Or my wife was dying on the floor and I couldn't see her because I've got oopsie daisy disease.
Yeah, I think that almost certainly I'm going to say Mick beat someone to death.
Do you think so? Is that what you think? And Kit knew?
Yeah.
Do you think Kit did it as well?
Well, maybe.
He can't have done, otherwise he would... He's in danger of not being in the show.
Oh, yeah, maybe. But Kit, we've seen, has planted evidence.
Or maybe he's corrupt and he covered for him.
Yeah, exactly.
And now he regrets it.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't obviously... If this were when they were younger, he wasn't a police officer then, but was him covering up for Mick the beginning of his bent copper ways.
I like to be a bent copper, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe I should get a job being a bent copper.
Go to the career advisor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, is the pay the same for a bent copper as a normal copper?
I think
and
it's
the career advisor's like, actually, you can get more money being a bent copper.
They also, Mick makes a comment about, oh yeah, remember Lou? And I've seen rumours online. It's not, any... It is only theories.
You can't really pretend not to immediately make the leap to they've slept with each other.
Exactly. Is Brody Kit's son? I mean, it kind of writes itself, doesn't it? Particularly from what's happened this year about Kit realising that maybe he wouldn't mind being a dad whatsoever.
The question is, does he know that he's Brody's dad?
Probably, I wouldn't have thought so. The way that he was reacting over Daisy's pregnancy, that doesn't come across as, I've got a secret son, I just can't mention it.
I mean, it's all leaping to conclusions, but the fact that we know Mick and Lou are Brody's parents, the fact that there's a massive age gap between that child and the rest of their kids, the fact that Mick and Kit know each other from the past, and then Mick says, remember Lou, in a kind of like suggestive way, it just, you watching a soap, you're going to put these bits together and come up with Kit is Brody's real dad. Does everybody know this? Don't know.
Yeah, if this is out there and it's in the
I
spoilers.
Mean, sorry, I don't know. I'm not saying
I
that.
don't know.
I'm saying does Mick know? Does Lou know? Does Kit know? Does Brody know?
Yeah.
Probably not. Probably we're going to find I don't really care.
I mean, it could be that Kit and Lou were a couple, and then they just split up, and then she started dating Mick.
Do you think Mick thinks he's won?
Yeah, maybe.
Won the woman.
Maybe, but what he doesn't know is that the child is actually is Kit's.
But
possibly.
is Brody very tall?
This is a good way to tell. You're right. They should have got an unusually large child to play Brody.
Child.
Yeah. And you can't just say, well, he does his hair up like a bunch of broccoli to give him a couple of extra inches.
They should have made Kit do broccoli hair.
That would have been the mega giveaway, wouldn't it? Anyway, I'm sure it'll all come out, probably very soon, in fact. And they don't have much time together. Kit just wants to get away because this is something in his past that he thought he'd put to bed. So Swain corners Kit in the bistro later, saying, I've looked at the interview footage. Why didn't you ask about what happened inside the pub? You were just talking about the pub car park. And Kit's like, look, this is where the assault happened. There was no CCTV inside, the dodgy witnesses were the ones that were saying what was going on in the pub. Just didn't think it was worth it. She lets him get away with it for now, but I think she's probably going to remember that at a later date because she's got a good old brain, has Swain. Swain the brain, that's what they call or something, I don't know. Sarah's eating out with Kit later, and he's being incredibly secretive about what Swain wanted to talk about with him earlier. He says that it was just about an interview with some guy today. It reminded me of someone that I grew up with. He wasn't a saint, but neither was I. And she's kind of probing into what he and his mate used to get up to and saying, oh, did you used to... I can't remember what she suggests, like some really...
Lock doors and run away.
Yeah, exactly. And
he's like, no, it's hard drugs.
He just won't really go into it. It was at the end of the episode, that Mick follows Kit in the street later and it reminds him about Lou and how the past always comes back to haunt ya. Well, it didn't on Friday because Mick's story on Friday suddenly swerved back into the land of Gary in the yard. And apparently Liam is helping out there because reasons. And Jake's really annoyed because he wants some money too for a new Xbox.
Oh, this was his motivation, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Why are you buying an Xbox for?
Well, yeah, come on, Switch 2's out next month, Jake. That's what all the cool kids are getting, I tell you. That's everyone's telling me.
I want a PlayStation 5.
Well, I know there was a new Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer
I'm
this
so
week,
excited.
wasn't there?
I'm not going to watch it. I'm so excited about this. When I saw that it said Grand Theft Auto, whatever it's 6, release date announced, 26th of May or something. I was like, I can't believe it. I'm so excited. And then I read it was 2026. I was like,
yep.
They got me.
A little bit longer,
They got me.
So anyway,
I'm gonna have to save my pennies up. How much is it if I save per month now?
You're gonna have to put quite a bit away. They're not cheap. Anyway, Mick tries some hazing initiatives. What was it called?
Yeah,
initiation things with Liam in the builder's yard. First by telling him he's got to spend the day chiselling mortar off a load of bricks.
Was that a lie?
I think it probably was.
Are you sure?
Maybe. I don't know. And then he tricks him into lifting a bag of plaster that he's cut open and the plaster goes everywhere. And they all have a laugh about it.
He took it really well.
He did, didn't he?
I was like, oh God, another tedious bullying storyline.
Well, Liam's a proper wet blanket, isn't he? He's a sensitive boy. And I would have thought that he might have had a bit of a cry about that. But maybe he's learned to toughen up.
They all went, this is proper man antics. And then Gary comes down and he's like, I remember when didn't he get involved in some kind of horrible?
Yeah, he did. He dunked concrete all over Seb.
Yeah.
Was it concrete or something like that?
He's like, oh, do you know what? This reminds me of the funny shenanigans me and Pat Phelan got up to. One time I hit him with a 2x4 and left him to die on the top of
well, that's how you bond. When you're a builder, that's how you make friends,
it's just man things.
Just man things, exactly. We wouldn't understand this.
Michael, you're a man.
I'm not a proper man, no. I can wear Gary's top from ITV Reloved as much as what you want.
I saw you wearing that plaid jacket. Not every man can get away with that.
That's true. After work, Gary tells Maria he's kind of arranged with them to have an evening in the pub with Mick, and she's not too impressed with this.
No,
although she does thank him for taking Liam under his wing later. But then she asks about Lou, and he says, well, she's back at home with the kids. I've been working hard all day. I deserve it and have a drink. And Maria says, he's starting to sound a bit like 50s throwback here, Mick, which he doesn't like. So
no, he kind of sullenly drinks his beer.
Yes,
and he doesn't find it's because it's not a man joke.
He's making it's true.
If she had I don't know, broke the glass over his head and called him a pansy or something, they would have all had a hearty chuckle, wouldn't they?
Yeah, you're right.
Whatever. You're a wet blanket.
I don't know what I think about Gary in the builder's yard, but yeah,
I kind of like that they've got a new set to hang around in.
What, the builder's yard?
Yeah.
Well,
it's a refreshing change of pace, and it's somewhere that's existed before.
Yeah, I suppose so.
And they're not buying.
They've also got a couple of new background artists as well, haven't they?
What?
Who were there to laugh. Even the pathologist had one line today, didn't they? It probably cost.
I thought you say the pathologist had a laugh.
No, so he's got some new background friends. That's lovely. What's been going on with these bolt-on messages this week then, Gemma?
Oh God, what a bloody letdown this was.
You just wanted it to be Bobby so that he could. I don't
Everyone would know.
What would be the punishment for Bobby for sending?
He wouldn't get punished because Bobby can do whatever he wants, and he just gets to hang around like a fart in a lift.
I didn't think it was Bobby because they were making it
look like
dropping
it was
too many clues to make us think that it was Bobby.
Yeah.
So it is clearly not going to be Bobby. But I tell you what, if anybody pips up and says, you know what, I thought it was Jake Windass, I will call you a liar.
Yeah.
Nobody thought it was Jake Windass because nobody thinks about Jake Windass.
Jake Windass wasn't in it until Wednesday. Was he?
Well, does he? He hasn't been for a long time, no.
Well, do you remember the other day?
I don't think he has any interactions with Lauren.
Is it not true the other day that we were talking about Gary's children and you forgot he even existed?
This is true, yes.
Right, so Wednesday.
And that's for Izzy. She definitely doesn't even know that he exists.
She's like, oh, I thought I left the kettle on. And where's my child? All right, Wednesday. Lauren's with Bobby in speed dial and she hasn't had any more of these texts, these evil blackmailing texts.
I know what you did.
I tell you what. What's his name? What's this child?
Jake, darling. We need to learn this.
Jake's really good at
surrogate Jake.
Jake's really good at taking photographs.
I know. He said he makes them look exactly like.
How did Lauren and Betsy not see Jake standing on a stepladder to take that photo of them from the air. Because that's a very small child, right? And this photo was of them up in the air, like where Kit would be if he was holding the phone up. Mm-hmm. How did he take this photo?
Maybe he was climbing up Audrey's tree.
Maybe he was standing on the terrace of the
could it be?
Precinct with a really good zoom. Right, so Lauren's with Bobby and Speed.
You've given it away who it is now.
Sorry, everybody. I'm sure you're shocked.
But yeah, all the clues are there in the dialogue to make it sound like Bobby, doesn't it? Like
no more texts. Bobby keeps asking her what's happening, right? And trying to play it down too.
Don't call the police.
Yeah, and she says, I should ask Betsy if she's had any more texts. And he's like, don't worry, don't ask her, it's not worth it.
Yeah,
Let's see what happens.
Instead of Bobby being weird and intriguing because he was actually sending the messages, it was actually just Bobby being weird.
Yeah. Bobby tells Lauren
he's just odd behaviour with no reason for it other than he's an odd character.
No, he's trying to get in Lauren's pants still. He will not take a hint because he says, you need to take your mind off things with a drink. And she says, yeah, I'll ask Sabrina if she's free.
That was my moment of the week. Poor Bobby. We said this was the Ralph Wiggum slow-mo heart-breaking into moment.
I did. I rewound
there,
it and I said I want to see the moment his heart breaks. So,
but we knew that she wouldn't go and see Sabrina because Sabrina's not in it anymore.
No, she says I cancelled on Sabrina because she's in acting school. So she says, and that's not a slight on the actress. She literally did quit Corrie to go to acting school. She didn't need to because I thought she was great. I'm just explaining that wasn't me negging her. That's true.
Yeah, she's cancelled the date with Sabrina because she's had another text come through, hasn't she? And it's made her sad.
It says, be careful on the road. I'm watching. And Bobby's like, well, I'm glad you came to me. Don't worry about it. So on Friday, Bobby's like, let's spend the day together and binge a series. And she's like, nah. I'm fine. You don't need to hang around with me.
Yeah, she couldn't friend zone him anymore if she tried, could she? When's he gonna take? She's
not friend zoning him. She's like
You're right. She's not, is she? She's like, yeah, I'll let you buy me a coffee occasionally. She's like, spend time with you. No.
She's like the EU with Switzerland. Yeah. They're like, okay, you can stay over there. So
she does have a bit of a change of heart about him by the end of today's episode. To be fair,
only because she feels bad. Bobby says, she says, I haven't had any more messages. And Bobby says, he's probably got bored. And she's like, why do you say he? And he's like, well, men usually are the ones that do these kinds of things.
I think most people would think it was a he. Although I did have Shona as one of my suspects last week as well, didn't I?
You would almost always say.
I don't know whether you would pick up on somebody saying he as well. I suppose maybe at this point she was starting to suspect because he was dropping massive hints that it was him, even though it wasn't. So yeah, I'm not surprised if she's suspicious and she might be looking out for tells maybe. But
sometimes it does get a bit kind of tedious.
Have we said a single nice thing about Coronation Street this week?
I wasn't even going to say that. I was going to say something else.
Go on.
It gets a bit tedious being a woman, right? And hearing sometimes when people will say, blah, 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 he or she could be a woman, when everybody knows it couldn't possibly be a woman, and they're just patronising you, like pretending, like, I wonder what the next president will be, whether it's a man or a woman, could be a woman.
What about the next pope?
That's what I was literally going to say. I found it kind of perversely refreshing when they were there going, let's find out whether the Pope will come out and he or she will make their first speech. You know what? I kept expecting people to go, and he will appear in his robes. Or she.
On his robes or skirt.
Yeah. And will give his speech. Or her lady speech.
Or she'll nag them.
Boss everyone around and tell them to worship Jesus.
Anyway.
Isn't it nice, the new Pope? Isn't it nice?
Yeah.
My mum was very excited.
I know.
Right, so Lauren is looking for a flat and a job today. And so she's spending a lot of time. She's not finding very much. Ardy says, I'll keep an eye on things for you. Then she gets a message from her evil...
It's Jake.
But he or she says, leave me £500 or I'll send the pictures to the police. So Lauren tells Betsy, And then they're both like, I think it's Bobby. Or Lauren says, I think it's Bobby. And Betsy's like, he wouldn't do that. And Lauren's like, you don't even remember, you don't want him even here when he was being a pervert. But he is. He's like, he's a nice guy. Maybe or maybe not.
She doesn't want it to be him because she knows that he's got a good heart, really.
Whatever.
He's just a bit forward, isn't he? Really. Right,
so she goes to the shop and Ardy says, I heard Freshgos was looking for a checkout assistant. Then the pair of them, Betsy
She goes to the shop to get an envelope to stick her fake cash in, doesn't she? And he's feeling sorry for her, so he gives her a free one.
Why have you got spare envelopes?
I don't know.
Don't you sell them in packs?
I don't know.
Right, so Betsy and Lauren go to put the money in the precinct.
Of course it's the precinct.
And then Betsy and Lauren are there doing a stakeout to watch who gets the money. Lauren doesn't understand what a stakeout is because she keeps turning her back on the money and Betsy's the only one watching it because Lauren keeps moaning about stuff. And so they realise that the person who's come to get this money is Jake Windass. So they confront him and he says, I need an Xbox. And they're like, understandable. Maria comes over. They don't tell him what's happened. Now Lauren just feels bad that she has besmirched Bobby's good reputation.
He doesn't have one.
Back at Betsy's flat later, she says that Bobby's given her some money.
Yeah, he's posted it through the letterbox.
Is he giving her 500 quid?
I don't know how much it was.
So he's not such a bad guy after all. It's like, he's just so desperate to get in your pants. It's not, I don't feel at all like any of this is altruistic friendship at all. I'm sorry, I don't.
No.
Because he wouldn't be spending, like, oh, let's watch a box set together.
And the fact that he's given her money now as well to get into her pants, it's
just
getting
creepy.
very seedy.
It's just creepy. I just think he's creepy.
I mean, it's giving Lauren flashbacks to her Ovid's days, probably, isn't it? Taking money.
I don't think it's getting that far. I think you're reading a bit too much into it.
I'm just being silly.
So Lauren gets a phone call because she's got to give the money for the flat deposit today. So she keeps Bobby's money, and then she finds out that she hasn't got this job because the Freshco cashier job went to the nephew of the guy who runs the place. And so Lauren realises that she's going to have to use Bobby's money for the deposit. And then Roy says, I did a bad thing once. What is he referring to?
I think it was, I'm pretty sure it must be when he saw Abby pointing the gun at Corrie and then didn't say anything about it.
Oh, so not hitting Gary with a baseball bat.
Could have been that. Roy's done more than one bad thing.
Didn't he set fire to the boat with...
Was sleepwalking. He didn't do that.
He's done lots of bad things.
I did find it quite funny how hard he was going, oh, Roy, you bad boy, or whatever he was saying. So that was kind of fun.
My prediction for this storyline is that Lauren is going to keep pretending that she's getting messages from this scammer to get Bobby to give her things and feel sorry for her.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
They're all as bad as each other, aren't they, honestly?
Lauren's a scammer. Bobby's a pervert. Betsy's oblivious.
Yeah.
Betsy needs to find new friends.
End of days story. So back to the Rovers, and Jenny's still smarting from being taken to the cleaners by Daisy last week, and she's saying it was definitely illegal, but there's no chance of getting a conviction now.
And I won't get the money back.
Not going to get the money back. Bottom line is I'm beat. Daisy won, hands down. So what does Jenny do in times of crisis? Drink, of course. So Monday's episode sees her knocking back glass after glass of wine with Rita. And Rita says, look, you need to just stop moping and get your thinking cap on. I would say that this week we've seen a fair, decent amount of Rita. I've quite enjoyed.
Yeah.
She wasn't just kind of frail old lady Rita this week as well, was she?
She wasn't just like interjecting with something that could have completely not been in the script either.
No. There was that bit on Friday's episode where she's like, oh, Brian, tell us why it's called The Rovers Return.
Oh, God. Brian.
Whoever wrote that episode had clearly been reading A History of Coronation Street.
There was something else as well.
There was something else that was dropped in there that was like...
The history or something.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was now.
Or a backstory or something.
Yeah.
Brian, what is that?
Oh, it was that other scene in Fridays where she was sitting in the back of the pub with Jenny and Rita's like, did you know they used to call me the Weatherfield Nightingale? Yes, everybody knows that, Rita. You've got a poster of yourself in your flat.
Yes. I used to work at the
You never
Orinoco
stop banging
Club.
on about it, love.
We know. No,
Anyway,
I love Rita.
I love Rita, but
I didn't know that she needed to tell Jenny that she used to be the Weatherfield Nightingale, unless it's also another dementia story.
Maybe that's an in-joke between them.
Maybe.
But yeah, on the whole, genuinely, I did really, really enjoy Rita this week because she's got her head screwed on and she was telling Jenny, you need to stop moping and get on.
Well, I
with
liked
things.
Rita. She was like going, you know, I tell you to find a rich man and marry him and let him take care of you, but you're not supposed to say that anymore.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It's like, yeah, that's literally how Rita made her money.
Rita helps Jenny to see that she's not too old to just be giving up on life. She can start a new path. It's going to be fine. Back your ideas up, girl. So Friday, we get some buyers coming around the pub. Apparently, at long last, the deeds have been signed over to Carla. So she is 100% the actual proper official owner of the Rovers Return after saying she was the owner for, 2 years is it now?
And I'm also super confused here about what everybody thinks has happened and why Jenny has signed this over to Carla. Has Jenny gone to everybody? Yeah, me and Daisy stole dead Stephen's money out of his account, which technically really could have gone to Audrey because she was the next of kin. And I don't know, because it was cryptocurrency or something, so I don't actually know whether it was traceable to anybody at all, so she could have kept that for herself.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember whether anybody knows. I mean, Bethany knows, doesn't she?
Why isn't everybody going, why, Jenny, have you signed the pub over to Carla? What's Carla got to do with this?
I don't. Yeah, that's
nobody's
really good
asking any questions.
They must have explained it, but I've forgotten. So please write in and tell us.
Yeah, what does everybody think about this? This is bizarre.
What do the rest of the characters think has gone on here behind the scenes? Anyway, Glenda does the classic. I'm going to show some buyers round, but make out that it's rubbish routine, and it works because they're not interested at all. These two. Jenny says, that's really lovely of you, but I'm going to have to sell soon, really. Then we get the scene out at the back.
Well, hang on.
What?
At the moment, Jenny's the manager, and she...
Not for long.
No, but while she's the manager, the bar staff know they've got a job, and so what's the word? They want to keep their job, so they're trying to put off the sale. And Jenny's basically saying, no matter how long it takes, this is still going to happen, so you might as well get it over and done with.
Yeah. So Rita and Jenny go out the back, and this is when Rita starts to tell her a little bit more about, when I used to do all the nightclubs, but then when the lights went on at the end of the night, I could see them for the grotty dives that
the lights
they were.
Went off, probably.
The lights went.
Oh
no,
on.
when they went on, yeah. And then I moved on from that, and I went to the cabin, and I thought I'd die of boredom working in there, but actually it was fab. Do you fancy working in the cabin? Maybe you'd like that.
It was great because I could bully Mavis.
Yeah.
Why don't you come and work
Maybe you
for
could find a victim, Jenny.
No, you can be my victim.
Yes. Yeah, maybe.
I bet she turns into a right cow when she's alone with those boiled sweets.
Well, yeah, so you said that Jenny was managing, but by the end of the episode, Glenda was temp managing the place, which, if somebody's going to take over, I'd certainly be very happy for Glenda to be there. But it was just really sad because this was seemingly the final nail in the coffin for Jenny at the Rovers Return, wasn't it? I mean, they didn't take her name from above the door as far as I could tell, but it's starting to look like she might not be the landlady for much longer.
Well, at the end of the episode, Jenny gets given a job at the cabin by Rita and Brian.
Yeah, which is basically consigning her to...
There's
to the stock cupboard.
There's no cabin set.
The cabin does not get shown anymore. So if Jenny is working at the cabin, unless she has stories elsewhere, Jenny is not being
Well, I don't think there's a permanent set for the cabin. I know they put it up last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly... Once. I can't believe that it's up at the moment. Otherwise, they would use it. It must be packed away somewhere.
I don't know if we're going to see Jenny in the cabin.
I very much doubt
really don't think
Or
we
if
will.
we do, it might be like one scene. But yeah, Rita, I can never remember whether Rita's working at the cabin or not. Rita's like, I could retire, wink, wink to Brian. I thought she already had many years ago, but apparently not. How old is she? 90? Yes, maybe she should retire at this point.
Let a young one have a job.
Yeah. I don't particularly see Jenny and Brian as being an especially compelling duo there behind the cabin.
It doesn't excite me.
No, but... we need to do some kind of retrospective of Jenny as landlady and, what are her highs and lows. And
I don't know if I want to do that because I don't feel I love Jenny as the landlady. I think she's fantastic, but I think Coronation Street as I think COVID is what ruined it.
Jenny has been the landlady through its empty years, hasn't she?
Yeah,
and she's steered the ship as best she can. But
the budgets at ITV just don't work with big sets anymore.
No. Oh well. What's Debbie been up to this week, Gemma?
Oh, she's fine now.
No, she's not, you liar.
On
Don't
Monday,
get my hopes up.
when he comes to pick up a jumper, and Debbie's trying to be nice to him, but he doesn't want to be friends with her. No. He's like, what's the point? Friday, they make a big point of telling Debbie that Julie was taken in her prime, which she knows that will happen to her.
Yes.
Carl drops her in it a little bit when he tells Debbie that she should be taking it
Kevin.
Easy in front of Kevin.
Sorry, you're right, yeah.
And he's like, what do you mean? And he was like, shut up, Kevin. Then she's organising a wedding fair, and he comes in and says, this is really hard for you. You should have someone to help you.
Yeah, he's trying to get himself a job there, partly because his business
he wants to embezzle.
Yeah, exactly.
She says to him, thank you for being helpful and telling me that I needed someone to help me. So I've hired Ryan. Mm-hmm. And Carl's like, damn it.
Yeah, Ryan is back to work with Debbie again because she poached him from the Rovers, which is a definite sinking ship at this point.
It is a sinking ship.
Yeah.
And she said, I got a new idea because I heard that 40% of all marriages end in divorce, so I'm going to do divorce parties. Yes. What do you think? I just loved that
fun.
scene.
That was a fun little scene where she was talking about grabbing the figures from the top of the cake and it's the groom and eating it first.
She was so great the way she delivered all those lines. I just love her so much.
Good job. That was a bright spark in this week's Corrie. And that is it for Coronation Street this week. And I think we've probably given the impression that we didn't really think too highly
I thought a lot of it was awful and messy and
there were bits that I was kind of interested in, but it was a bit like watching a car crash and going, oh, they're going there.
Julie's death didn't make me sad. I don't know if anyone else felt like that or whether maybe I'm just jaded because everyone's dying or leaving. I'm still confused about Theo. I really want to be on his side because of his sad backstory. And I also am so aware of how out of my experience all of this stuff is. And I don't want to judge people for their, things that are beyond their control. I just feel as though Theo's completely in control of what's happening and he's making really bad decisions based on something tragic that happened to him a long time ago. And I know that it's traumatic and terrible, but I just wish they had done it with a different character in a different situation. I just don't think it's fair on that story. I didn't like... I'm not interested in what's going on with Kit and Mick. I really don't like that Jenny's not the landlady or won't be the landlady anymore. I've come to terms with that. That's going to happen.
And you don't like the fact that Debbie's got dementia.
So I'm going to give this week 1.5 sweet.
1.5? That's your lowest score ever, surely. I think I might be about to give one of my lowest scores ever as well, actually. I wasn't going to go 1.5.
1.5 sweet, firm plums.
See, that was a funny scene between Roy and Ardy in the background.
The actors are still all doing a fantastic bloody job with what they're being given.
Yeah, they are, and it's the
cast is great.
It'll buoy back up.
The writers are doing as good as they can do. I just think that it was a mess. It's badly thought out. The scenarios don't make sense anymore. It feels as though the whole thing is careering into a black hole because I don't know where some of these stories are going and they can't be going anywhere good. My character of the week is Debbie.
I'm going to give it 2 boyfriends that look like David Cassidy out of 5. Character of the week, guy, it's a tough one. It's a really, really tough one. I think I would probably... I'd like to say Julie because when she was alive, I still like watching her. But I'm also kind of thinking you've really set your sister up here, missus.
But Monday's episode should have been a triumphant moment for Julie. It should have been poignant and moving and sad and inspiring, but it wasn't at all.
No,
it's left me cold. And so was she.
Okay. I am going to give my character of the week this week to... I mean, it probably...
Mick?
No.
Kit?
I mean, it probably was Debbie. I mean, I'm going between Debbie and Rita, and I don't know whether Rita's ever had a character of the week.
Give it to Rita.
But she wasn't my character of the week. I just liked her more than
know.
Usual. But Debbie was fantastic.
Debbie gets it with just that scene of the divorce party idea. And she's going,
I'm just trying to think from the... Can I justify giving it to anybody from the Julie story? Eileen?
Why? Why do you have to? Because you feel bad that you should have liked it?
Mate,
no.
Because it was the big A story of the week.
Yeah, I'm in a vengeful mood. You don't get a pass. This is Coronation Street. I champion Coronation Street, and I'd always try to find a reason to like it and enjoy it, and like not make excuses, but come up with reasons and say, you know, maybe it didn't work out because of this, that, or the other thing. I'm fed up with it now. I think that ITV is strangling it. There's obviously a real issue going on here with people leaving and money stuff. There's just not enough money to do things, and it just feels like it's been strangled. And this week is just... You
might be right, but, you know, as I say, I'm sure...
really down on it.
You're really, really down on
also,
it. It's going to bounce back up again,
can I just
don't
say,
worry.
I can't remember what I gave Mondays, but I gave Wednesdays a low bog standard. I said to you in today's short, I want to revise that and give it bobbins twice. 2 bobbins in 1 week.
Yeah.
And they weren't even just... Fridays wasn't even just a normal bobbins. It was like...
It was a bad bobbins.
Don't even bother with this.
I'll give it to Debbie this week because she probably was my character of the week, even though she didn't have a whole lot to do. I think she was the shining light for me there. Sorry.
What a terrible week. No, I'm not apologising. They should apologise. This was bad. This should be Coronation Street. This is ITV's premiere television show. There's no excuse for this. Bunch of cobbled together nonsense.
It was just Julie's exit was badly
Don't
handled.
bring somebody back for this big storyline that's supposed to be brilliant and wonderful and then fumble it like this. I know where they're going with it. I think we all know where they're going with it, but we're not going to say. And it's just like, what, the destination's not worth the journey.
No, I don't think it is. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Let's
I think it's probably a good idea before I say some more things.
I need to make myself a cup of tea, I think.